Congress. Congress, come to order, please. I know you've had a short lunch, Anne. I'm extremely sorry. I know you didn't expect to see me, but I thought it was very important that I was here for Jo Cox. And I'm now going to move and call Standing Orders Committee Report number 4. Helen Johnson.
President, Congress, Helen Johnson, Midland and East Coast Region, moving SOC Report number 4. Withdrawn motions and rule amendments. This is to confirm that the following motion was withdrawn from the floor at Congress this morning. This was London Region Motion 349. The SOC has also been advised that the following motions have been withdrawn by the regions concerned. London Region have withdrawn Motion 250 and Midland and East Coast Region have withdrawn Rule Amendment 383. Bucket collections. Yesterday's bucket collection by Yorkshire and North Derbyshire Region for the Rotherham Great Get-Together inspired by Jo Cox raised the lovely sum of £610.64. President, Congress, I move SOC Report number 4.
Congress agreed to accept? Yes, thank you. And thank you for the sum of 6,600. Sorry, Tim. Ooh, I nearly got. Oh, well, I'll reduce it. We'll have a sale. I think that this cause is worth a lot more from this union. And that, I would ask the General Secretary, could we make it £2,000? Bring Eleanor. Somebody go and resuscitate Alan Wiley. Thank you, Tim, very, very much indeed. And we move on now, and I've been joined on the platform by someone we have got to know quite a lot. And we respect him so much, and our thoughts are always with him. I would like to, to announce on the platform is Brendan Cox himself. Well done, Brendan. Thank you. Thank you, Congress. Congress, we would like to make a special award in honour of Jo Cox, who was a GMB member and a dear friend to all of us. She was loved by all in the region for her infectious and optimistic view on life. She gave her life to the trade union movement and campaigned for fairness for all. She was a champion of women's rights and national chair of Labour's Women's Network for 4 years, working to encourage women to enter public life. I know Brendan would like to address Congress, and Congress, Brendan, it gives me great pleasure to ask you to address us. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today and for your kindness, both since Joe's death and in today's award. That video reminds me very much of the night that Joe got elected in a sports hall, a bit like this, in Huddersfield. And Joe was giddy with excitement, with energy. She was alive with ideas and full of commitment to fight with everything that she had to make her community closer, our country stronger and our world fairer. And that fight, the fight she gave her life for, is more important now than it has ever been. Because as we've seen in the last few days, our values are under attack. With an intensity that I haven't experienced in my lifetime. From Islamist fascists who believe that people of different religions shouldn't mix, to white nationalist fascists who believe people of different races shouldn't mix. The first distort Islam, the second distort our nation. They're both driven by the same emotions of fear and hatred, and both of them will be defeated. Make no mistake, our country has beaten much bigger threats in the past. But it won't happen just by itself. There's no automatic brake that stops society going off the rails. It's not a fight that we can sidestep. I believe it's time for us all to ask what we can do. Of course, the security response is critical. We have to support our police, give them the powers, information and resources that they require. They're the bravest of us, and they deserve our full backing. But a security response is never going to be enough. This is a battle for hearts and minds, and it's there that we can all help. Because extremism cannot survive in close, integrated communities. It preys on the isolated, the marginalised, the segregated. It might be easy to hate in the abstract, but when you know the other, it's very hard to maintain that loathing. Hatred thrives in an age of weaker communities. We work in smaller workplaces, spend more time online in our own social media bubbles. We don't go to the pub or the church as much as we used to. It means we know our neighbours less, mix less, and fear each other more. The reason that Jo went into politics was to build stronger communities. She loved her hometown of Batley and wanted to make its community closer, stronger, more resilient. And that belief in closer and stronger communities was the same reason she joined the GMB and was proud to be a GMB MP. It's the work that you all do, day in, day out, and it's why I'm so proud to be working with so many of you on the great get-together that you just heard about. The weekend of events on the 16th to the 18th of June, marking Jo's murder by bringing communities together. The idea is very simple, to ask communities to come together, to share food with your neighbours and celebrate all that we have in common. Because we find so many opportunities to talk about what we disagree on, whether that's elections or referenda, and find very few opportunities to talk about what binds us together. Of course, one weekend doesn't create close communities by itself, so I hope we'll continue to work hand in hand to build the values of togetherness. In doing so, we'll help drive out the extremists, and we'll build support for Jo's belief that we have more in common than the things that divide us. And there could be no better tribute. Thank you.
On behalf of the GMB, we present you with this honour. I just wish we were sending it to Jo herself, but I know you will treasure it and look after it. So I thank you so much for being here. He thought he was going to Portsmouth, didn't you? But he's not. He came to Plymouth, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, Congress, it's over to Malcolm. See you in the morning. Thank you. I'm throwing the white flag in. I'm going to get me Superwoman's outfit.
You've always got it on. You've always got it on.
Congress will now move on to item 2, which is the special report on reserved seats. This report will be moved, and then I will call one speaker from each region. Could I ask for Joe Morgan of the Birmingham region to move the report? Joe.
Thanks, Chair. President, Congress, Joe Morgan, Regional Secretary of Birmingham West Midlands Region, moving the CEC special report on the introduction of reserved seats for equality strands onto the Central Executive Council and regional councils, and also asking for Rule Amendment 383 to be withdrawn, as this rule amendment is contrary to the proposals in the special report. Congress 2016 carried Composite Motion 3, representation of equality strands, onto the CEC, and it tasked the CEC with establishing a working group to progress the composite and to make recommendations on the introduction of further equality strand seats onto the CEC. An equality action group was set up which met and produced a consultation document which was then circulated widely to regions, to branches, to the National Equality Forum, regional equality forums, the Young Members Forums and the CEC itself. The Equality Action Group met again to consider the feedback and produced a report for the CEC, including recommendations. The CEC endorsed the working group's recommendations and produced the special report that's in front of Congress today. The CEC firmly believes that the underlying purpose of their recommendations is to reflect the diversity of GMB members in representative positions at all levels of the lay member structure and therefore improve our ability to organise and represent members. The CEC recommends to Congress that the current reserved seats on the Central Executive Council, the regional women's reserved seats and the national race reserved seats remain unchanged. The CEC recommends that additional nationally elected reserved seats are created for LGBT, youth and disabled members. 2 seats for each strand, 1 open seat and 1 women's reserved seat. As Congress will be aware, it's a requirement under the GMB rulebook that to be eligible for election to the Central Executive Council, a member must first be a member of their regional council. Therefore, the CEC also recommends that these same reserved seats are established on regional councils. 2 seats for each strand, 1 open seat and 1 women's reserved seat again. Again, colleagues, the CEC recommends that existing reserved seats on regional councils, women's reserved seats and black and minority ethnic reserved seats remain unchanged. And the new strand reserved seats should be elected in the same way as the BME reserved seats are from members of the region's Equality Forum. Congress, one concern that was raised during the consultation process was how members are elected onto regional equality forums, and the CEC is considering a common process to apply across all regions because it does differ at the moment, and that process will include full participation with the branches. Another issue the working group encountered was that as regional councils have just recently been elected in April 2017, this would mean that the first CEC election where these proposals could be introduced will be 2023. Therefore, comrades, the CEC is recommending, in order to bring forward these changes for the next round of CEC elections in 2019, an interim round of regional council elections is held following Congress this year, when rule changes will come into effect on the 1st of July. Congress should also note that in the interim period, the CEC has introduced further Equality Strand observer seats in addition to the existing young member observers, and there is now an LGBT observer and a disabled observer from the National Equality Forum attending CEC meetings. These observer positions will remain until the next CEC elections in 2019. Congress will note that the net effect of introducing newly elected Strand reserve seats onto the CEC will be the CEC will grow by just 2 extra members, as the current observer seats would cease to exist from the 2019 elections. Each regional council will also have an additional 6 members, so Congress should be assured that these proposals will not vastly change the size of the CEC nor regional councils. So to summarise, colleagues, the CEC is recommending that additional Strand reserved seats be introduced onto the CEC and Regional Council, bringing to fruition the decision that was made at Congress 2016. These proposals will mean GMB will yet again lead the way and set the standards for other unions to follow. I therefore ask Congress to adopt the CEC special report in front of you and endorse the rule amendments, the related rule amendments within the report to introduce these new reserved seats into rule. I move.
Thank you, Joe. Can I have that formally seconded, please? Thank you. I'll now go down the regions, and if they want to wish to put in a speaker, the first one will be Birmingham, London,
Tarrant Charler, London Region, speaking in support of the CEC Special Report, Introduction of Reserve Seats for Equality Strands on CEC and Regional Councils. Congress, this report is not only encouraging but also cements a fundamental move to ensure that equality is achieved through inclusion and not through exclusion. It's commendable that the report finally recognises that equality strands are set out in the CEC Special Report, Progressing Equality Issues in the GMB at our Congress in 2007 will now be represented on the CEC. We note, however, that retired members are not addressed in this report. London Region recognises retired members as a special group whose contribution is invaluable. Having said that, the proposal set out in the report reflects the diversity of the GMB members and potential members and recognises the value of having a positive, diverse agenda through a democratic, inclusive process. We therefore welcome and support the CEC report on Strand representation. Thank you.
Birmingham.
Warren Just from the Birmingham and West Midlands region, speaking in support of the CEC Special Report on Reserved Seats for Equality Strands. Vice President, Congress, I'm somebody who, although not currently on the CEC, was able to, because of the race reserved seat, was able to get onto the CEC. And had it not been for the reserved seat, I might not have been on it. It's important within our union, whilst recognising the immense diversity that we have, that we embrace it and promote it. And it's very important that all equality strands are represented on the regional councils and on the CEC. This is a very positive step that is being taken. I'm very inspired by this initiative. If we are really serious about pushing forward all equality issues, including those affecting young members, disabled and LGBT members, then we need these representatives on the bodies. You'll remember last year that one of our disabled members from our region, Byron Cook, did a rousing speech here and as a result caused the CEC to change its stance on a motion, got a standing ovation and managed to get a kiss from Mary in the process. It's a bit of a cliched phrase to say that our members are our future, but in any organisation, for it to prosper, we need to have a proper succession procedure. Our young members need to be inspired and work with our role models and current leaders so that they can be the leaders and role models of the future. I support this statement, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Warrender. Midland. Thank you. Northern. Thank you. Northwest. Scotland. Southern. Southwest.
Rebecca Dawkins, first-time delegate, Wales and South West region. Speaking in support of the CEC document on reserved seats for equality strands. Vice President, Congress. Equality and diversity at the very heart of the GMB, and it is crucial that our structures adequately reflect and represent the composition of our membership. We recognised some time ago the increasing importance and influence of women in our union by allocating them reserved seats on both regional councils and CEC. In the same way, BME seats were also built into both constitutions. Following on, with the other observer positions on the CEC for younger members together with disabled and LGBT groups. It is a matter then of both logic and fairness that we continue with our progression route by upgrading the observer positions into bona fide seats on the Executive Council. The document is the product of a widespread opportunity to contribute to the discussion. Sadly, responses have been minimal, but the consensus is very much in favour of taking this step forward. Congress. The GMB plays a vital role in engaging with and advancing the workplace interests of women and other strands by articulating equality into the bargaining agenda. Having the correct structures within our own organisation is essential to the dedication of equality issues. Sometimes we have to challenge established interests and power structures, even within the GMB itself, and find a balance in terms of the way we accommodate an increasingly diverse membership. We cannot, with any real degree of credibility, have a lower commitment to the promotion of equality within our own structures than we have to the workplace. On occasions, of course, we do face some hostility from our own members in pursuing workplace equality on grounds that it could cause diversions and undermine trade union power. We can't have this. We need to support this. I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yorkshire.
Ian Kemp, Yorkshire North Derbyshire region, supporting the CEC report on reserve seats. And before I start, on behalf of my region, my branch and the people of Rotherham, thank you very much for the contribution to the great get-together. I'd have been happy with the £600, so thank you very much. Congress, the fact that just 12 months after the passing of Composite 3, we're discussing the work of the Equality Action Group and their recommendations is not only testament to the work of those involved, but hopefully shall put paid to the notion that motions passed at Congress disappear into a black hole. The GMB has always been at the forefront of the fight for equal rights, both in wider society and within our union. We might not always get it right, and we know we've got some way to go, but the recognition of the various equality strands coming into the governance of this great union just shows how seriously the GMB takes the issue. Now, there's an argument that positive discrimination in the form of reserved seats is still discrimination. But comrades, we've got to live in the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be. And while every one of our members is being abused, bullied and discriminated against because of their race, their sex, sexuality, whatever, I'm going to fight with my last breath to make sure that their voice is heard within this union. Now, no matter how much I empathise with people facing discrimination, as a white heterosexual male, I'm not going to experience failing to get a job because of my colour, or abused for who I love, or despite the fact that my sartorial elegance is on a par with Tim's, that I'm going to be judged on my appearance. Having reserved seats for our equality stands brings not only those experience to inform our work and our policies, but also brings the enthusiasm and idealism of our young members. That's why Yorkshire North Derbyshire region supports this this report and calls on other regions to follow suit.
Thank you, Ian. I'll now put the report to Congress. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. The next item was Rule Amendment 383, but that's been withdrawn now. So we now move on to item 3, which is Rule 68, Birmingham, and 70, Birmingham. Can they please come down? And the mover of 68 to the rostrum, please.
Vice President Congress, Julius Sear, Birmingham and West Midlands Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Motion 68, Young Members' Budget. Congress, I would like us all to acknowledge the magnificent work done by the National Young Members Network, including work done on the Mental Health Matters campaign, GMB's £10 Now campaign, and general support helping campaigns from all equality strands. The Young Members Network's latest campaign is Recruit, Organise and Retain. And the aim of this is to take their campaigning to the next step and actively target specific workplaces where there are high amounts of young people to grow the union's membership and also to retain existing membership. There is a massive potential for growing the union by recruiting and organising young people. There are currently over 56,000 young members in total across the GMB, which shows the good work done so far in recruiting and organising them. However, the TUC's Good Innovation Project has found that there are 8.7 million people aged between 21 and 30, and 6.5 million of these are in employment, meaning there is a plethora of young workers ready to be recruited. In order to maximise the effect of the Recruit, Organise and Retain campaign, the GMB Young Members Network needs to know what resources and budget it has available. Congress, the motion is not asking for a brand new budget to be created, but instead for the Young Members Network to be advised of what part of the National Equalities budget is allocated towards them. The network can then plan their campaigns around this to achieve their goal. Congress, I move.
Thank you, Julia. Seconder.
Vice President, Congress, Elliot Downing, Birmingham and West Midlands Region. I move for this Congress to call upon the CEC to release funds nationally to young members' networks regionally. The future relies upon having an active, engaged and representative youth movement. There are currently over 56,000 young members in the GMB. Only 752 young members are post holders. With as the first, school second and care making the majority of young members across the GMB. The current ethos of the young members is to recruit, organise and retain. The Young Members Network is currently engaged in industrial issues such as low pay in the service industry, underemployment and housing. An active, organised and well-funded Young Members Network will ensure that efforts to recruit and retain active members will best serve the future of the union as it moves forward. Controlling their own budgets regionally would allow young members to organise long-term campaigns, raise the profile of the union in the public perception, press and social media. I move this motion.
Sorry, can I now call on Paul Wheatley? Midland East Coast region to speak on behalf of CEC.
President, Congress, Paul Wheatley speaking on behalf of the CEC. We are asking for you to refer both motions 68 and 70. These motions are asking for a specific budget for work on and with particular equality strands. The various equality strands do some excellent work across the GMB, but that work needs to be integrated regionally with the strategy of highlighting and tackling issues, but also building the union. The CEC is totally committed to the principle of properly managed funding to support young members' activity, including the Young Members Summit. However, we are asking that these motions be referred to the National Equality Forum to draw up the programme to achieve this. Young member activity is now led by 2 members of National Office, and budgetary control for young member activity should be nationally led under the National Equality Department, and this is what will be achieved. Therefore, Congress, please refer motions 68 and 70.
Thank you, Paul. Does Birmingham accept the reference on 68 and 70? Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? They've carried. Can I now move on to motion 82, Birmingham, 83, Birmingham, and 84, Southern. Please come down to the front, and 82 to the rostrum, please.
Congress, President, Arnold England, Birmingham and West Midlands region. Developing campaigns for community cohesion. Now, this motion is aimed at union officers and activists, widening our approach to embrace faith groups and community organisations to meet the needs of our members and their families in the wider community. Many of us here are part of other groups and organisations. We do and we need to use these links to the benefit of our members and their families. In the name of austerity, we are closing libraries, community centres, youth clubs, etc. In my ward, that I represent on the local borough council back home, we have saved the local library and a community centre, and we are working with faith groups to set up youth facilities. We are GMB members. We have a GMB Labour Party candidate, and the council leader is a GMB member. And it is that accent on ensuring that we link up with each other for the benefit of the community, and that we need to actively promote and take part in wider community issues and work with others to this end, again, for the benefit of our members and their families. I move. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Formally, could I have 83, please, Birmingham?
Vice President, Congress, Angela Gilrain, Birmingham West Midlands region. First time speaker, first time delegate, moving motion 93. Thank you. The issue I'm talking about is non-binary. So what is non-binary? Well, I'll tell you, it's a person who doesn't define themselves as male or female. It's a hard concept to get your head around if you're not used to the term or even heard of it before. It just means people just want to be people. Nothing more, nothing less. And why do we need to be defined as male or female? I would ask Congress to support this motion by supporting unisex toilets, unisex uniforms in the workplace for all, change what we ask on our forms around gender with how some banks have moved forward, the Passport Office and DVLA, with the questions they ask around gender. We also feel that educating our kids around this issue would help immensely, and not define what uniforms kids must wear, allow them the choice of what they want to wear, which may not include items from the male or female list. Also, we ask Congress to support professionals to enhance their knowledge around this area to support the individual so the individual can gain access to the service they need. Thank you, Congress. I move.
Mover of 84.
Vice President, Congress, Elliot Downing, Birmingham and West Midlands region. I second this motion to end the oppression of non-binary people. A binary person refers to any gender that is neither exclusively male or female. A person's identity is a personal preference and the concept of self within the realm of personal identity. I and this Congress call upon the GMB to promote and raise awareness of non-binary persons in the union and the workplace. This includes alternative pronouns, workplace allowances, genderless uniforms and unisex bathroom facilities. I second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I now have the mover of 84, please, Southern?
Clive Merton, Southern Region. Motion 84, use of honorifics. First time delegate, first time speaker. Vice President, Congress. This Congress believes that following feedback from our LGBTI members and Southern Shout, we're concerned as a union we're excluding members and potential members who may not define as Mr, Mrs, Miss for their title or may not define as male or female for their gender. This subject was raised at a recent trans conference that was attended by GMB Southern Shout. Members of the trans community explained how some people prefer to use titles that are non-gender specific and prefer a different option to male or female as gender. This has also been raised at Pride events attended by GMB Southern Shout. It is traumatic enough to tell family and friends that you're transgendering from one sex to another without the added stress and complication of how to express this on a form. Putting an option on all GMB forms for people to define their own title and gender should not have to incur a cost to the union. The amendment could be done on the master form before a new print run is started. Let us show that the GMB is inclusive and diverse and open to all to join, and that GMB is the union for the 21st century and beyond. Please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, Clive. Is there a seconder?
Steve Oakes, Southern Region, supporting motion 84. Okay, as it's been said, the GMB is a leading union in equality. And my point is simple, really, Congress. It's let's give the dignity and the acknowledgement to the transgender community by supporting this motion. I support.
Thank you, Steve. Could I now have 86 Southern, 87 North West, and 88 Southern to the rostrum, please? And the mover of 86.
Charlene Encombe, Southern Region, first time speaker, first time delegate. I'm moving motion 86, mandatory disability awareness training. Vice President, colleagues and visitors, I propose to put forward a motion for mandatory disability awareness training for all employees during their induction process. Disabled people contribute over 80 million a year to the UK economy and account for up to 20% of the customer base for an average UK business. By treating them in the right way, organisations or services are more likely to retain them and spread positive words. Organisations and services are less likely to encounter complaints, and this could save millions of pounds a year in compensation. Staff awareness training is the most important element of delivering the right service to disabled people. The training can focus on the legal context of disability, compliance issues, access to work, exploring the concept of people being disabled by society's barriers and attitudes, and highlighting the role of the organisation in the removal of these. Reasonable adjustments, customer care, etiquette, appropriate language, and provide wider information on both visible and invisible disabilities. This would enable employees to have a better understanding, broaden their knowledge base, and equip them with skills to enable them to handle uncomfortable situations in the right way without feeling embarrassed or scared or making the usual mistakes. Those who are disabled themselves, I'm sure, would respect their employer more for taking the training seriously, and because of it, be treated better by their fellow colleagues. Advertising the training not only shows that the employer cares, but also is a good look to the wider community that the employer has invested in this type of training. Congress, I move this motion.
Thank you, Shalane. Can I have the mover of 87, Northwestern Irish, please?
Joe Smith, Northwestern Irish Region, moving motion 87, disability rights. Vice President, Congress. Comrades, you've all heard this statement time and time again. We're all in this together. Yes, David Cameron quoted in 2010, the test of a good society, you look after the elderly, the frail, the vulnerable and the poorest in our society. And that test is more important in difficult times when difficult decisions have to be taken than in better times. Let's look at it from a disabled person's point of view. Everyone, no matter who or what they are, deserve to be able to reach their full potential. The government agenda has painted disabled people as scroungers. Disabled people are drowning in red tape and letters that are coming through their doors. They talk about affordable housing for disabled people. Disabled people have to pay a bedroom tax and have been faced with council cuts at the same time. Carers are on course to lose £1 billion by the end of 2018. At the same time, the cost of living for essential products like food and keeping yourself warm has gone up dramatically. Public transport. Yes, in some areas it has improved dramatically, but in some areas they've stopped the bus routes. They've axed them due to lack of funding. And I can say that in Lancashire, that's definitely happened. Completely for the general public, this again, for the general public and disabled people, this will make their life much more difficult, never mind trying to get on a bus, but when there isn't one at the same time. You can have public services that put profit before care. Changes need to be made. Congress, please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, Joseph. Can I have the mover of 88, please, Southern?
Hello, Conference. My name's Steve Masters. I'm moving the unisex toilets motion 88. If the Deputy President would indulge me for 1 second with a small liberty, I'd like to ask you all a quick question. How many of you have separate toilets for men and women in your own home? Nobody. I've never been into a house that had 2 separate toilets demarcated with the stick men, and so we just don't do that. When we go into a small cafe or a restaurant or whatever, there's 1 toilet there, and we use that. It's just not even an issue, not even a thing worth thinking about. Men and women use the same bathroom facilities all the time, without issue, without problems. However, for some people who, for a whole variety of reasons, find segregating the human race into 2, man and woman, challenging, toilets are not only a political minefield, but they're also personally very isolating for many trans comrades, non-binary comrades, and for anyone who simply doesn't like to be segregated on the basis of their genitals or their gender. Back in the days of the Jim Crow laws in the US, segregated toilets for black and white people was seen as utterly normal, and there was outrage when that segregation was stopped. Let's just not do this anymore, GMB. Let's follow the lead of so many schools, restaurants, cafes, big offices, workplaces, and so on, who have chosen unisex over segregated toilets. And of course, let's not forget, in our own unisex bathrooms at home, let's make at least 1 of our GMB office toilets a unisex toilet. I move. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Second, formally, can I ask for 89 London, 90 Yorkshire, 91 London, Composite 5, Birmingham to move in second, and Composite 6, London to move in second. Down to the rostrum, please, and ask mover of 89 to come to the rostrum.
Vice President, Congress, Gordon Brunning, London Region, moving motion 89, disabled toilets and disabled access. I self-define as disabled and I'm chair of Ability, the London Region Disability Forum. We would like to highlight the failings of disabled toilets and the access to these facilities across the UK. We have disabled members who regularly carry out access audits of accessibility, including the inspection of workplace disabled toilets within the public and private sector, finding wherever they go that many disabled toilets and the access to these facilities are not fit for purpose. Congress, not all disabilities are visible. We must remember this when it comes to the provision of disabled toilets and the access to these facilities. An approved checklist, BS 8300, was created as part of the Equalities Act to ensure the provision and safeguarding of these facilities. However, more often than not, the first thing that is noticeably missing is a shelf and a hook, which are required in all cubicles and which are essential to those disabled people who need and use sterile equipment. Even if a disabled toilet meets all the criteria for equipment, the way in which it is often positioned is inappropriate. The placement of sinks and grab rails, which are not at regulation heights, present serious problems and issues for those disabled. Accessibility to these facilities is another issue. Disabled toilets can often be locked, requiring a specialist radar key to gain access, which can be problematic for anyone with dexterity issues. To compound this, many premises may not have a disabled toilet, where you will be required to go up and down a flight of stairs, only to find that they use the toilet for storage facilities. The entrance is blocked, the gangways are blocked, making the access and use of this toilet for a disabled person in a wheelchair not possible. Our members have first-hand experience of the kind of situation they can encourage. How many of you here are fit, well and healthy with friends and colleagues who are the same? Consider before you vote how many of your friends and family could be born or could develop a disability. You never know. Don't just look at disability issues as if they don't affect you, because you could and they may well do. Is it right that I or they should ask for access to toilets? No, this is something that is clearly unacceptable in a 21st century society. I call on Congress to ensure that all GMB offices comply with the minimum standards. However, as a modern, forward-thinking trade union, which is equality and diversity-led, I would hope and expect Congress would agree we should go above and beyond the minimum standards to ensure all the basic needs of the disabled community within the working environment and society are at least maintained. However, I would go further and strongly urge Congress to ensure that these basic needs are further increased by removing all disabling barriers, therefore allowing self-defined disabled people full participation in the working environment and within society.
No, come on, wrap up now. There's a good lad.
They deserve. Please
We're trying to get some. Is there a seconder?
Vice President, Congress, Eleanor, London Region, second motion 89. I'm a carer for a self-defined person, my father, and an active member of the King's Lynn No. 1 branch, why I support this motion. This is why. As I read the motion on disabled toilets and disabled access, I could see and relate to it on my own situation and to a great deal of things that affect my father, the person who I spend a lot of time caring for. My father has very poor eyesight and needs the aid of a walking stick to help him. There are lots of times he won't go out. That is, he won't travel very far in case he needs the toilet. Most of the toilets are not easy to gain access to. Also, with the setup of disabled toilets, it would help a great deal if they were uniform. When they design disabled toilets so much, it can make affect the person's confidence in waiting to use the facilities. If a disabled person, my father for instance, felt unable to cope at such a personal moment, he may decide to stay at home and avoid the embarrassment. Asking for help can be difficult for many people. Sometimes help is not enough, even for him and them. This is why uniform layouts of disabled toilets would help with their confidence. Since having to become a carer, I have had to, like my colleagues, become much more aware of the issue concerning disabled toilets and disabled access for the facilities highlighted earlier. I call on Congress to actively and positively support this motion so that all self-defined disabled people can enjoy better quality of life whenever, wherever they want, allowing them fully to participate with society. I second this motion.
90 Yorkshire.
Ian Kemp, Yorkshire North Derbyshire region. Moving motion 90. Vice President, Congress. First of all, as a Rotherham fan, can I congratulate Huddersfield on their promotion to the Premier League, especially as it was at the expense of Sheffield Wednesday. And also point out that Huddersfield, the pride of South Yorkshire Rotherham, along with, for our North West colleagues, Blackburn Rovers, actually exceed the recommended facilities for disabled fans. Comrades, in September 2015, Premier League clubs unanimously agreed to improve their disabled access provisions by meeting the Accessible Stadia Guide by August 2017. According to the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, there's been limited progress. Of the 20 clubs, 13 failed to provide the required number of wheelchair spaces. Only 7 have larger, fully equipped toilets, and 7 are breaking Premier League rules by not providing full information to fans. All this despite the Premier League signing yet another mega bucks deal for broadcasting rights. The Premier League is awash with cash, with premiers on exorbitant wages, but apparently nothing for probably their most dedicated and loyal fans. At present, 3 clubs, reigning champions Chelsea, Bournemouth and Watford, are in real danger of missing the deadline to make improvements. And if they do miss, what will happen? In theory, a Premier League fine of up to £25,000 or in serious breaches, reference to an independent panel with the authority to impose heavier fines or points deductions. Will this happen? Probably not. And call me cynical, but in the case of one of those 3 clubs, definitely not. And you can guess which club I'm talking about. The Premier League is scared of confronting its clubs, especially the bigger ones, and imposing proper sanctions for those who break the rules. Money talks, unless you're disabled. It's time the Premier League got its house in order. Let's campaign for the Accessible Stadia Guide to be made compulsory. And if they don't, as we do with racism, let's show the Premier League the red card.
Thank you, Eden. Mover of 91, London.
Tarrant China, London Region, moving motion 91, ratification of the Istanbul Convention, violence against women and girls. Vice President, Congress, gender-based violence is prevalent in the UK. 1 in 5 women aged 16 to 59 have experienced sexual assault. 2 women are killed every week. In England and Wales, 1 in 4 women will have experienced domestic violence. In 2015, 66% of women and children who were referred to a refuge were turned away because there was not enough bed space. The Istanbul Convention is the strongest move that has ever been made to combat violence against women and girls globally. It outlines minimum standards for a government's response to violence against women and girls and guarantees urgently needed change in preventing. For example, it requires governments, of which UK is a signatory to protect funding for domestic violence refugees, rape crisis centres, 24/7 helplines and offer counselling for domestic violence survivors and ensure education on healthy relationships in schools. On the 27th of April 2017, the Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence Bill was signed off and it became law. This is not the end, Congress, as the law simply means the government must put in place a time frame for the ratification of the Convention and annually report on the progress they are making towards this. Congress, the government has not yet ratified the Istanbul Convention. We urge you, Congress, to lobby your MPs, asking them to be champions for the ratification, if elected, following the election on Thursday. Congress, please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, colleague. A mover of Composite 5, Birmingham.
Afternoon, Vice President, Congress. Tammy Willett, C40 Care Branch, Birmingham, West Midlands Region. First time delegate, first time speaker. Compensate C5, abuse in the workplace. A carer, aged 21, second week of working in a care home, she was attacked and strangled by a resident with dementia. She's been hit, slapped, punched, kicked, and even spat at. This happens on a daily basis. Workers are frustrated and hear the same excuses, blamed for receiving abuse from service users. Then we were asked, how did you deal with the situation? What could you have done differently? I myself was attacked on a night shift by a service user after taking my eye off them for a split second to remove their slippers. In this attack, they pulled my hair from my scalp. While my head was still bleeding and I was in a lot of pain, I still tried calming the service user down. Before I could go to hospital, I had to finish my 12-hour night shift. Imagine the pain I was in. My manager said, it's part of their dementia, quoting, you know what the job entails. Most service users with dementia don't have full mental capacity. After my hospital visit, I had to have 4 days at home to use the special treatment on my scalp, hoping it would mend the hair follicles. At the time, I was a single parent, unable just to have full-time off with statutory sick pay. I had to request 4 days emergency annual leave. 4 days. My hair has never grown back, as my hair follicles were damaged through severe trauma. I felt really let down by the company I work for passionately. I give my support and empathy to all the service users. Where is our protection as workers? Everything is already in place for all the service users. And let me say, I'm not blaming them, as they don't understand due to their illnesses. Managers and HR need to show some empathy, some compassion and some support, because there is none at all. I'm calling upon GMB to provide our members with vital protection they need. Safeguard our staff, like we safeguard the vulnerable people we care for every day. I go to work every day to provide a safe service, so why should we tolerate abuse? Please, GMB, we work long hours on low pay, and in return, we get relentless daily abuse. Conference, I move.
Seconder.
Vice President, Congress. Julia Sear, Birmingham and West Midlands Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Speaking in support of Composite 5, abuse in the workplace can take many forms, from physical attacks to verbal abuse, and more needs to be done to combat this by ensuring staff have appropriate training and awareness of situations before they escalate. We support this motion, but we believe that employers need to do more than just deal with attacks from customers/clients. Being a good employer does not only mean supporting employees at work, but also offering support during difficult periods. For some, the workplace is a safe haven away from abuse they are facing at home. 75% of domestic abuse victims will be targeted at work. People experiencing domestic abuse are often subject to disciplinary action. GMB have already launched model workplace agreements for policies in the workplace, which demonstrates that the employer provides a safe haven for its employees, but also shows a commitment that domestic abuse is not tolerated in or out of the workplace. We ask that you support the motion for these policies to be made mandatory in all workplaces. Everyone has the right to a life without fear, whether that be at work or at home. And so, Congress, I support these motions wholeheartedly and ask you to do the same. Congress, I second.
Thank you, Julia. Mover of Composite seeks London.
Taranjit Chana, London Region, moving Composite 6. Vice President, Congress, having worked in the violence against women sector for the last 20 years, we have seen a decline in the availability of life-saving specialist services. More than ever before, the one chance rule is a difference between life and death. As professionals, we only have one chance to help, support, advise, and free women and girls from violence. This task every day is made much more difficult with a decline in specialist support services. This Conservative government, Congress, has shown a hatred towards women and non-binary people, with their cuts hitting women of colour and disabled women the hardest. Since 2010, welfare cuts have cost women £79 billion as opposed to £39 billion it costs men. This means, Congress, that 85% of welfare cuts are falling on the shoulders of women. 34 refuges have closed under the Conservative government. In 2016, 2/3 of survivors were turned away from refuges. In 2014, child poverty rose by 200,000. In 2016, the Conservative government gave £250,000 from the tampon tax to an anti-abortion charity, Life, despite young girls missing school because they cannot afford sanitary products. And tax credits capped at 2 children. Survivors will now have to prove they've been raped to receive tax credits for a 3rd child. Congress, it is unacceptable that specialist life-saving services are being cut through the austerity when the rate of domestic violence is surging. 2 women a week are killed. Please support, I move.
Thank you, colleague. Seconder. Formally. Sorry. Can I move 370, please? NEC. Today, if possible.
Vice President, Congress, Annette Riley, GMB Scotland, moving motion 370 on behalf of the National Equalities Conference. Congress, many disabled people rely on their guide dogs to help them get around and to live their lives fully. Guide dogs, hearing dogs and other accessibility dogs are a constant companion for many of our disabled members. GMB Scotland, particularly having our own colleague, Yoko, with us on our delegation to help and assist our own Pat Duffy. Pat had intended to move this motion this afternoon. He would have told you about how much he relies on Yoko, but also about some of the challenges he faces in providing a home for his guide dog. Unfortunately, Vice President, Yoko has been feeling ill today and has taken Pat on a trip of her own to the vet. Congress, when it comes to working dogs, then those that are in need of an accessibility dog are at a disadvantage compared to owners of gun dogs, sheepdogs and even racing greyhounds. Food for all these dogs are VAT exempt. The purpose of this motion is to commit GMB to backing a guide dog the Guide Dogs for the Blind campaign to achieve the same VAT-free status. Disabled people face a double whammy, their own benefits being frozen or cut, and increasing stress and associated with benefit assessments and even sanctions. At the same time, users of accessibility dogs face rising prices to feed their companions. Imagine being reliant on a dog simply to get about or to carry out normal daily chores, but having to worry about whether you've got enough money to properly look after it. This simply cannot be right. Congress, please back this motion and agree that GMB gets behind this campaign. We ask our national union to lobby our politicians and win a change in the law. Help us ensure that accessibility dogs are treated the same as working dogs, which they are no doubtly are. I move.
Thank you, Annette. Can I now call on David O, North Western Island Region, to speak on behalf of the C... Oh, sorry, seconding that. Apologise.
Anne Leader, Wales and South West Region, seconding motion 370. Chair, Congress. This motion is calling for the GMB to campaign for equality. Equality for the owners of assistance dogs with the owners of other working dogs. It is way past time that guide dogs, hearing dogs for the deaf, and other assistance dogs were recognised as working dogs, working every day to bring life-changing independence and help to people with severe disabilities. Any dog owner who chooses to buy food designated as being for working dogs pays no VAT, irrespective of whether they own a working dog or not. Unfortunately, as a high-protein food, these are totally unsuitable for guide dogs, etc. Guide dogs for the blind not only breed and train guide dogs, a 2-year process, they continue to support owners who find it difficult to pay for food, vet bills, etc. As a registered charity who receives no government subsidies, not having to pay VAT would save them thousands of pounds. We need to lobby all MPs and MSPs to get the government to recognise that all assistance dogs are working dogs and to allow their owners to buy whatever food is suitable for their dogs without paying VAT. I second.
Thank you, Anne. Could I now call on David O, North Western Island Region, to give the vote on the CEC report?
Vice President, Congress, David Oates speaking on behalf of the CEC, responding to motions 82, 84, 88, 89, composite 5 and 6, and motion 370. I will try to be as brief as I can and take them in order. Motion 82 on community cohesion. Cohesion. I've been practicing that all day. We support this motion with a qualification, which is that best practice and successful campaigns should include the broadest links with community-based organisations, and where appropriate, these should include faith groups. However, this should be dependent on the subject of the campaigning and that the organisations do not contradict or oppose GMB aims, values and policy. On motion 84, again, we support this motion with a qualification, which is that the terminology in equality matters have evolved and changed to make account of external developments. However, there are cost implications for changes to the membership and other forms. We could work with regions to develop a project to look at the best practice. On motion 88, the GMB recognises that the nature of some practices can be discriminatory, and we appreciate the intention of the motion, the language used is a little inappropriate. We therefore seek referral of this motion as the central proposal of this The central proposal of providing unisex toilets should be subject to a further consultation and review on flexibility and cost implications. We support motion 89 with a qualification because access for disabled people remains central to the GMB Equality Through Inclusion strategy, and we will continue to work on recognising disability discrimination in all walks of life whilst campaigning on specific issues impacting on disabled people. The qualification is that the request for all regions to adhere to a minimum standard for disabled access should be processed through the senior management team, who will be able to consider compliance to the standard set under BS 8300. We support Composite 5 with a qualification. A number of motions raise awareness of violence and abuse at work, which have previously been passed by Congress. And these have tended to be sector specific. Our campaigns affordably focus on high-risk occupations such as security, NHS and education. Given the go-on impact of, another big word, adversity, want to help me out? Adversity, yeah. Adversity measures. We are likely to see further increase in abuse at work, so a coordinated campaign to organise working is timely. The qualification is we cannot be constrained into just a zero tolerance approach to campaigning. Zero tolerance is only mindful if we can actually enforce it, and in most workplaces we cannot easily do that. Demanding action is given, but we need to be the widest possible range of approaches and should not be limited to a single method. Furthermore, a call for a charter should not provide too much onion, and would allow a specific hook for campaigning and organising activities. We're nearly there. On Composite 6, we are recommending support with a qualification, which is that GMP opposes all forms of domestic violence. In fact, a model agreement on domestic violence abuse was launched at this year's National Equality Forum 2017 and is available on the GMB national website. We have contacted all those who came to the conference to give us progress on regional activities in this area and will continue to raise awareness of issues and impact of cuts to this service. However, the qualification is to call for affiliation to Sisters Uncut should be referred to the CEC Finance and General Purposes Committee to ensure that they're in line with the aims and values of the GMB. And finally, on motion 370, from our conference, we are recommending support with a qualification. Guide Dogs for the Blind Association confirms that their dogs are classified as working dogs, as are other assisted dogs. We have been advised that in order to qualify for VAT exemption, there would need to be I'm going to say specific food manufacturers just for these dogs. Therefore, the cost of developing such specialist products would ultimately be higher than the rates paid for the food purchased for dogs. Therefore, currently stands, organisations are paying the best total price available for the product appropriate for their dogs. However, there continue to be extensive dialogue with HMRC around the ways to address the VAT cost for dogs, VAT that were. Also, the motion calls on GMB to campaign on this issue, but the campaign mentioned is not currently been used for 7 years, and also we've been advised that Guide Dogs for the Blind would not be looking to campaign on this issue, as they're now speaking to HMRC. Therefore, whilst we fully support equality for all dogs and support the good work done by various charitable organisations, but there are limitations to what the GMB can do on this issue. Finally, to recap, please support motion 82, 84, 89, composite 5 and 6, motion 370 with the qualifications I've outlined, and agree to refer motion 88. Thank you, Congress.
Thank you, David. Before I go into the vote, can I ask Jan if she'll come up to the rostrum, please, for her thing? Right. Does Birmingham accept the qualification on 82 and composite 5? Does Southern accept the qualification on 84? And accept the reference on 88? Does London accept the qualification on composite 6 and motion 89? And does the mover of the motion 370 accept the qualification on behalf of the National Equality Conference? I'll now call for the vote. Well, sorry? No, okay.
Just to say, Vice President, we accept the qualification with the caveat that the full purpose of the motion was to make the difference between what working dogs are fed and what a guide dog is fed. You can't feed a guide dog what working dogs get because they're high protein foods, so they'd be running about 100 miles an hour, which isn't suitable for a guide dog.
Thank you, Annette, but you accept the qualification? Thank you. We'll now call for the votes. 82, 83, 84, 86, 87 and 89, 90, 91, composite 5 and 6 and motion 370. All those in favour please show. Any against? They will carried. And can I now ask the retired member, Jan Smith, National Secretary of the Retired Members Association, to address Congress. Thank you, Jan.
Congress, Vice President, Jan Smith, National Retired Members Association Secretary. Before I start, Malcolm, I see Tim has run away. Can I say, has he turned the heat off to pay for the extra money for the collections that he has been making? As you look around the room, people are beginning to wrap up. So if something can be done, please. Right, got that out of the way. And I see he's come back. He's put the shilling in the meter.
It's big to put a coat on, Jan.
Conference, since my report last year, we have gone from strength to strength, and sadly, we have had some sad news and we've had some good achievements. I will go into the sad news first. It has been mentioned already in Congress on the opening day. We lost Steve Pickering, and can I say at our conference last year, we extended our sincere condolences to his wife and his family. Steve was a stalwart of the RMA, and he's been there from the beginning, and he always supported us. Steve, we wish you to rest in peace, and thank you for all that you did for us. Secondly, you will notice there is one lady not among Congress this year, and that is Monica Smith. Sadly, for some reason, she is no longer a member of our committee. I will not go into details of that because that would be remiss of me to do so. Monica has booked a holiday to cover for these days that we're at Congress. Monica, I hope that you are having a good time away, but I can say we thank you for all that you did for us and the inspiration that you've given to the RMA over the years that you have played a full part of. You were there right from the beginning. What I can say from our last meeting, and it's come from myself, Monica, we are going to make you our honorary president. Liz Blackman, I understand you are in hospital. Liz, we send you our very best wishes and get well soon. And also within the sadness, we had Angela Murphy, who used to go and sit in the NEF meetings. She was endorsed by our previous coordinator, and she used to give us a full report on what was happening within the NEF. Monica, again, thank you for those full reports that you gave us. They were inspirational. You moved things forward, and we know that you also took things back from ourselves. So once again, thank you. Going on from there, now on to the better parts. Last year we had our conference, which was held at Wortley Hall in Sheffield. It was a good conference, and it's been said it's one of the best conferences we've had for years. We had speakers, Kira Greenaway from the National Pensions Office, and also Tim, our General Secretary, came along and addressed us. Thank you, Kira, and thank you, Tim, for the excellent addresses that you gave. Can I say there will be a conference again this year, but it's going to be in Manchester. The invitations have already been sent out to Kira to come back because he gave a wonderful information on pensions and what is happening, and also what it means for pensioners with Brexit. Tim has also been invited, along with Mary, our president, which we hope that she will be able to attend. Can I tell you that Kira and Tim have accepted that invitation? Finally, can I say thank you to all the regions who responded to my letter asking if you could bring a raffle prize for our stall. For those of you who responded, thank you very much. And I can tell you that I've been told the raffle amounted to £896.80. So thank you all who bought a ticket to make this worthwhile. And perhaps, tongue-in-cheek, Tim might endorse that as well.
It's just got in the meter to put the heating up.
There is one last person I would like to thank, or two last persons. Tanjet mentioned about the RMA in the Equalities document. We have made a first. Thank you, Tanjet, what you did. But I will promise you the RMA, as long as I have got breath in my body, we will eventually get on the CEC. It's no good keep using the same old thing. You've got members on the regional council, you've got members sitting on the CEC. We want a place in our own right. Can I say thank you to Warren Kenny, London region, who has got full commitment to the RMA, and London Region have recently made a video on the forthcoming election in trying to promote getting a return of a Labour government. If you haven't seen that video, go on the GMB website and it is there. So thank you, conference. I look forward to seeing everybody at this year's conference, which I've mentioned. It's the 18th and 19th of October, and it will be at the McCurr Hotel in Manchester. And can I say, all resolutions and motions must be sent in to myself by the 1st of August, along with names of your delegates and your visitors, and hopefully your coordinators. Any late information will not be accepted. Congress, I commend this report to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Colleagues, before we move into the finance debate, I've got a couple of announcements. The RMA raffle has been drawn, and could delegates check at the store to see if they have won or not? And the York Disabled Workers Cooperative have a small number of Mary Turney badges left. They also have a GMB women's badges and bird boxes and bat boxes, if you want to, anyone wants to go there and buy anything. And could I also welcome Anna McVie from our external auditors, who is in the hall today. Welcome, Anna. We'll now go into the debate, and can I call upon Rule Amendment 388, London, 389, London, 390 has been withdrawn by London, I thank them for that, and 400 Birmingham to the rostrum, please, and the mover 388.
Jonathan Coles, Redbridge Branch, London Region. I'm going to move Rule Amendments 388 and 389 together as the same reasoning behind them, and one is a consequential amendment of the other. And this is to allow branches to hold their elections by all-member ballots, amending Rule 35, 7 and 8. President Congress, I'm moving these motions without the support of my region. Well, hopefully that might change in 3 minutes' time. Some members of our branch a year ago had a few issues with upcoming elections, and the elections for our new branch secretary went to a ballot after a decision from our regional committee. The reasoning was to make sure all members had a chance to participate in the democratic process of our branch. This did have the effect of increasing our turnout to over 200, and it allowed the decision to be made by what we stood for, not how many people we could personally get to the branch meeting. And you may be pleased to know, not just because of the turnout, the election was a success because I was not elected. However, I was asked to carry on as a full-time convener. Our branch secretary works in a school, and they were not prepared to release her. However, when I say worked, I mean worked, as Madeline doesn't take no for an answer, and she scored secondment as a full-time schools convener, and she secured us 2 new accessible offices too. All our activists feel that the elections were a success and vital for ensuring our branch members could be involved in the process. We have close to 2,000 members, a lot in schools. Many are female and part-time, and many have caring responsibilities. We have our branch meetings after school at 5 p.m, but that is not easy for members to attend. Therefore, as the members of our branch feel this is the way we'd like to elect their branch officials, then why shouldn't we? The rule change allows the branches to democratically choose the method of holding elections. It doesn't take much to organise. A branch meeting can become hustings, and maybe one extra to announce the results if a contested election. I was assuming the objection might be the cost, but it's not that expensive, just the cost of an initial branch mailing, and that could be reimbursed by the branch if the region decides to. At least then we'll have the democratic choice to ensure our branch members can be involved in the process. So please vote for these motions and allow our branches the option of ensuring a wider turnout and a more informed decision-making of their branch officers. By holding postal elections, there should indeed be contested elections. Unfortunately, a lot of branches do not get huge turnouts for a variety of sound reasons, so let's not disadvantage our members. So let's ensure all our members can get the vote. I beg to move.
Thank you, Jonathan. Is 388, 389 formally? You want to second them? Okay, fine.
Good afternoon, President Conference. I'm here to second this motion. As Jonathan said a few moments ago, it is not being supported by our region. However, one thing I'd like to point out is nowadays we have a lot of postal ballots that go out. We've got a general election on Thursday and a lot of people will be voting by post and will have already voted. So if it's good enough for a general election and it's good enough for council elections, European elections, referendums, surely it is not beyond the world of possibility that it's good enough for the GMB as well. As Jonathan also mentioned earlier, we did hold this and try this out in our branch, and it was very successful. We have over 2,000 members, and we had close on 200 votes in the postal ballots, as opposed to about 10 people turning up normally for a branch election. So it's a lot more democratic. I know from experience from previous elections that we've had in our branch, that when we've had a branch election for either president or whatever, people come up to me afterwards and say, sorry, why did we not get a postal ballot, because we weren't able to come to the thing on the day. I go on, but please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Could I have Rule Amendment 400, Birmingham, please?
Vice President, Congress, Eleanor Turnbull, speaking for change to Rule 53, funeral benefits, Birmingham, West Midlands and Barnbury branch. First-time delegate, first-time speaker. Leaving Rule 53, granting £350 for the estate of a deceased member who pays funeral benefits. Firstly, Rule 53, leave it as it is, could potentially be against, as a young member who unfortunately died at 20 could never ever have the benefit paid to his or her family. Secondly, AUDITORS is fully right after a year, not after 5 years. As a selling point for recruitment, it's hardly the prime mover to die and leave £350 to his family. At a time when the deceased member family are in their wits' end, it's never a great time to say, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, you're not being a member for over 4 years. You don't qualify, or 5 years, sorry. Currently, it's unfair and discriminatory against young or new members. We are, as a proud union, famed for looking after our membership, should treat everybody, every member equally. Standing proud and remembering our deceased members on the opening of the Congress made me feel slightly uneasy, thinking how many of them not qualified. Congress, I move equally from the first year, even for the past members. Fight to change this injustice and support this motion. Thank you.
Second.
Brothers, sisters, comrades, Stevie Robertson, seconding Rule Amendment 400, Birmingham West Midlands region. I'm sure we all agree that it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, to see so many young and new members represented amongst us here in our 100th Congress. But young members, just remember, try your best not to die unless you've been a member for 5 years. Because under the present antiquated Rule 53, the CEC think that you're no good enough and no entitled to a meagre £350 funeral grant. This is no fair. It's no just. It's discriminatory. And it's uninclusive. And it's also embarrassing. It's embarrassing to have to tell a deceased member's family or loved one, sorry, your loved one was just no good enough, or because they'd only been 3 years, 4 years, they didn't qualify. I've had to do that 4 times now, and it's an embarrassment. All right, we go to the branch, and the branch gives them a hardship grant, but it's just wrong. And I asked you, the GMB members, to support this motion to the rule and this rule amendment, because it's outdated and it's embarrassing. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Motion 24 London and 164 London. Coming down to the front, please. And the Speaker of 24, the mover to the rostrum.
In the middle, which is which. Jan Smith, London Region, motion number 24. Congress, it's asking about the branch accounting plan. What we are asking for is this plan be reworded fit for purpose. The plan, when it was first introduced, was passed at Congress, so all branches submitted a plan of how it was going to organise and promote its branch within the following year. And it also incorporated to do this to get an honorarium. If you go through the wording of the plan that we have at the moment, and this was discussed at the beginning of the year as well, with a meeting that I attended with 1 or 2 other branch secretaries with Lisa Johnson. We agreed that this plan, as it's laid out at the moment, is not fit for purpose. You only have to look at it, and what it's querying and stating is what you're going to do in your workplace. It's referring, if you're a branch with multiple workplaces, you have then got to select, obviously, one workplace, and is it right that you're promoting one workplace more against the other? The plan should be what you are going to do as a whole within your branch, not as the workplace. I move that this plan be reworded to accommodate what it is meant to be. I know they're going to ask you to oppose it, but please support. I move.
Thank you, Jan. Is there a second there?
Congress, Vice President Doug Rigby, London Region, seconding motion 24, branch plan, funding and accounting. Congress, the new way in which branches produce their plan must be looked at again. My branch is a small branch, however 99% of what the plan wants we do. We have regular meetings, support GMB values. However, getting members to fill the positions like a political officer and even a youth officer is very hard. If we have to stick religiously to the plan, it might mean we submit the plan and it gets rejected, meaning the branch may not get their commission. Congress, I ask you to support this. I second.
Steve Garlick, London Region, speaking on 164, which is the Driver Benevolence Scheme. Some regions have beneficial funds which members pay into to provide legal and financial protection where issues occur in relation to motoring offences. These funds are paid into by members and provide protection in the case of offences in connection with the road traffic tax. Contributing members are entitled to free motoring legal advice, and where in the opinion of the regional secretary it's desirable, a member needs representation in court, then such a defence is provided. If a member of the Motor Drivers Fund Benevolence Scheme is found guilty of an offence and is fined, a grant will be made by the union from the funds held. Having a union that is not united in offering such a valuable and beneficial facility to members in all regions seems wrong. This iniquity does not speak to the value of being a union and shows a divisiveness that one would not expect. Not only is such a fund a benefit that adds value to the union's offering to members, but it can be a further reason to increase membership nationally by showing how far we will go for those who wish to contribute. However, having a fragmented situation as we have now, we are a union of haves and have-nots, and this shouldn't be just regionalised. We request the union creates one single scheme for all rather than a scheme for a few. Whilst membership of such a scheme is not mandatory, in the growing world of litigious police and insurers, such a national scheme is not only pragmatic for all, but also of great value for all. I move.
Seconder. Formally. Thank you. I'll now call on Margie Clark from Birmingham Region to speak on behalf of the CEC. Margie.
President, Congress, Margie Clark speaking on behalf of the CEC, replying to Rule Amendments 388, 389, 390 and 400, and to motions 24 and 164. RA 388 and RA 389 seek changes to branch electoral procedures. One proposes nominations by post, and the other seeks to give the branch authority to hold postal ballots. Colleagues, neither of these ideas were proposed by the branch working party, which looks at all aspects of branch life. There is no evidence that the nomination process is not working, and postal nominations would discourage attendance at branch meetings. Regional Committee has the authority to call for a postal ballot for branch elections. But to expand this for anything other than special circumstances would be expensive and again discourage attendance. We ask you to oppose RA 388 and withdraw RA 389. Rule Amendment 390 on branch equality officers would enshrine in rule detailed requirements on how this officer carries out their tasks. The CEC thinks the existing rule adequately covers the role and the responsibilities of the equality officer. How they deliver these responsibilities should be left to the branch and the region. We are therefore seeking withdrawal of RA 390. Rule Amendment 400 wants to change the rules for funeral benefit and reduce the qualifying membership period from 5 years to 1 year. Colleagues, this is a benefit aimed at long service members, the majority of whom are retired life members who are excused from all contributions. In recent years, Congress has agreed on regular increases to the amount of funeral benefit, to the point where the benefit cost 443,000 in 2016, an increase of 14% on the previous year. The CEC is not proposing an increase this year, but we will keep it under review as budgets allow. We strongly believe that this should continue to be a benefit aimed at long-standing members, and we would ask you to oppose Rule Amendment 400. Motion 24 asks for an update to the branch development plan. The motion implies that the plan has not been updated since 2007 or 2011. In fact, this is incorrect. The plans were reviewed in the Branch Working Party's special report, GMB Branches, A Future That Works, which was agreed by Congress 2014, and that report included an update template for branch plans. The main requirements are now built into the rulebook at Rule 35.1. The CEC asks for withdrawal of Motion 24. Motion 164 asks for a national drivers' benevolent scheme to replace the drivers' funds which are maintained in a number of regions. The CEC is asking you to refer this motion to see if a national scheme is desirable, and if so, how we would avoid losing some of the unique features of existing regional schemes. To recap, Congress, please oppose RA 388 and 400. We are asking for withdrawal of RA 389, 390 and Motion 24. And we ask you to refer Motion 164. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Margie. Does the London region wish to withdraw 389 and Motion 24? Sorry? Yes, you certainly have.
Congress, Jonathan Cole's Redbridge branch, London region, we did clarify that we said it would be the branch choice as to whether, and at their own cost, as to whether they wanted to hold ballots for their officials. We pointed out that attendance is already poor, so it wouldn't actually discourage any poorer attendance. People have difficulty to attend, so I don't see why there is still the objection. If CEC is still unsure on this and wants to have a look at this, then why not ask us to refer it? Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. Does London region wish to withdraw 389 and Motion 24? No? Right, thank you. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Jan Smith, London region, replying regarding Motion 24. Conference, the dates or the years that I quoted are the dates and years from when this all first started. The form that we have to fill in now has not been updated. It is the same form from when it is being endorsed by regional committees that this form has to be completed. And if you go through it, some of the questions are repetitive, and I go back and say that I did before. It is not fit for purpose. It was agreed with one of our London officers. My region is fully behind me on this, so please support. We will not withdraw that resolution.
Thank you, Jan. Does London accept reference on Motion 164? Thank you. So I'll now go to the vote and I'll take them all individually. The first one is Rule Amendment 388. The CEC are asking you to oppose this rule. All those in favour, please show. Those against? That's lost. We'll now take 390. Again, the CEC are asking you to oppose this motion. or this rule amendment? All those in favour, please show. Sorry? No, 389 has been withdrawn, if you were listening early on. Oh, sorry, I've crossed the wrong one out. I do apologise for that. Sorry, 389. You're asking to oppose. All those in favour oppose? All those in favour, please show. All those against? That's fell. Rule Amendment 400. Once again, they're asking you to oppose this. All those in favour, please show. All those against? That's fell. And motion 24. Once again, they're asking you to oppose this. All those in favour, please show. Those against? That's lost. Thank you very much indeed for that. We'll now move on to Rule Amendment 398, Birmingham, 399, Birmingham, and I do believe that 386 has been withdrawn. That's Southern, is that correct? Right, thank you very much for that. So can Rule Amendment 398 and 399 come to the front, please? And the Speaker of 398 to the rostrum.
Jackie Ingley, Birmingham and West Midlands region, moving Rule Amendment 49.1. Vice President Congress. We pride ourselves to maintain and improve wages and conditions for our members, but unfortunately, sometimes it's necessary for our members to take part in strike action. The decision to remove their labour is never an easy one, and we have seen in recent years the number of disputes has decreased. Many employees know our rules, and this gives them confidence that can see our members off because we offer such a low strike benefit. We need to support our members through these difficult times without having to ask for donations from branches. An increase to £30 a day will show our members that we understand the hardship they face when they are forced to take industrial action. The CEC were asking you to oppose, but have now seen the need to support, because I am confident Congress would have overturned the decision. Thank you.
Mover of 399, please.
Vice President, Congress. Paul Jackson from the Birmingham and West Midlands region, R35. Rule Amendment 399, changing the rule 49. Congress, changing a rule, especially one that could cost the GMB money, is never going to be very popular with either the COC or the Management Committee. Yet at the heart of our own ethics is our spirit of solidarity amongst the worker in their plight for what's right. The rare times when workers have to go on strike, and it is rare nowadays, are scary times. Scary and costly. Scary because of the fear factor from the management have over their striking workers. Costly because without a strike fund, no one can afford to go on strike apart from the odd occasion to disrupt and force more negotiation. The thought of losing wages can be the dividing factor between voting for a strike and potentially winning the issue, or action short of strike action, which is rarely as effective. All too often, the phase action up to and including strike action puts the fear of God into some of our members. Unfortunately, there are times when the only alternative is strike, when every other form of discussion has broken down and a democratic ballot divided. This is not a show of strength, it's the utmost in principle and importance. Support from our trade union, the GMB, is hardly the clincher at £10 a day or £50 a week. So my proposal is to raise the figure of £30 a day and £150 a week. It's a figure of support and it's a figure of reasonability. It's also a figure that unscrupulous bosses could be scared of. I also think that in the long term, it's a figure that will save the GMB money because of the threat of strike action, will cause the bosses a severe headache. Enough to think again and come back to the table. So Congress, this rule change, which is in today's earnings, is outdated, especially in the light of fellow trade union support mechanism for strike, should be changed. Please support £30 a day as a responsible figure. I move.
Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, the General Secretary will outline the CEC positions on these motions when he addresses Congress. We'll now move on to motion 26, London, 28, Midland, 23, London, 25, London, and Composite 1, Wales and South West to move, and North Western Ireland to second. Please come to the front, and the mover of 26 to the rostrum.
Vice President, Congress, Kevin Roberts from the London region, moving motion 26, mileage rates for lay members. This motion is to ask the GMB to pay lay members the HRMC rates for mileage. The GMB already actually quote on a lot of their letters, they pay the HRMC rates or subsistence, so why not the mileage rates? It also makes negotiating with employers very difficult, because when you go in there and you say to them, oh, we want the HRMC rates, and they come back and say your own union doesn't even pay that, they pay 35p. Why should we actually negotiate you to go to 45p a mile? I know the CEC wants to refer this motion, and I would like to ask the CEC to give Congress an indication on when a response will be likely. Please support this motion. I move.
Seconder.
Vice President Cathy Holland, London Region, seconding motion 26. I cannot believe we're still talking about this when people who are supporting the most vulnerable in the union refusing to compensate the members by paying the proper rate for the job. After all, is that what the union's about? GMB, come on, pay the right rate for the job. I second.
Mover of 28, Midland.
Vice President, Congress, Grace Charles, Midlands and East Coast Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Congress, I am really pleased to be here this afternoon. Really pleased to be here because I feel that I'm amongst so many friends. Pleased to be here because I'm among so many like-minded people. And pleased to be here because I'm presenting this motion for GMB to robustly petition HMRC to register GMB for tax relief on subscriptions. Congress, we are aware that members on low pay bandings are having to use food banks to survive. Now, to me, this country should hang its head in shame. In the 21st century, is it right that our health and social care workers, cleaners and support staff who work hard every day should be in that position? We feel that one way to assist our members on low wages is for GMB to robustly petition HMRC to register GMB, thus providing tax relief on members' subscriptions and rightly putting money back into our members' pay packets. It's imperative that GMB ensures that our members are treated no less favourably than our sister unions. I know it's a swear word, but Unison have already got this. We need to get it for our members. The latest Trussell Trust figures show a 2% increase in food bank use. Over 1 million three-day emergency food supplies were given to people in crisis, many of whom were working people and many of whom will be our members. Congress, let me ask you, Why, in one of the world's richest societies, and in a country that prides itself in having welfare provision that's from the cradle to the grave, do we still have to use food banks? While I understand that the GMB are currently petitioning and negotiating with HMRC, I request that Congress calls on the CEC to do so more robustly. Registration will help ease the pressure on our members. Additionally, registration with HMRC would give further opportunity for us to maximise recruitment, being able to say that, more importantly, it will help us improve retention in the healthcare and public sectors. In order to earn recognition for tax relief, HMRC state that the activities of an organisation must be able to show that they are helping their members to do their jobs. Congress, GMB does this. It acts as a source of knowledge for many health and social care workers. It gives legal and negotiating expertise to our members. GMB should be able to remove any existing barriers preventing our members from receiving this tax relief, and finally demonstrate that our great and proud union should be added to the list of eligible organisations. A fundamental role of trade unions is to improve its members' terms and conditions, and although GMB members may accept at times that this is not always possible, they do, however, expect...
Can you move the motion, please?
Okay, so this is going to be £6.50.
No, just move the motion, please.
I move for us to accept.
Thank you. Seconder.
Vice President, Congress, Derek Pym, Midlands East Coast, first time delegate, first time speaker. Seconding motion 28 to register the GMB with HMRC. In this 21st century society with extreme austerity, low pay and ever-increasing reliance on food banks, we call on Congress to position HMRC to provide tax relief on subscriptions in line with our sister unions. And we ask the next Labour government on Friday to expedite these tax reliefs and allowances paid to all our low-pay colleagues. Congress, I second this motion.
Thank you, colleague. Motion 23, London.
Gavin Downey, London Region, moving motion 23, Regional Finances and Autonomy. First time delegate, speaking for the second time. Congress, Vice President, visitors. Our region has been asked to refer this motion to the CEC so that it can be part of the current work of the SMT Working Party on union finances. The future financial strength of the union, the regions and the branches is vitally important, and clearly, on the basis of the principles contained within motion 23, we are proud to assist with the work of the CEC and SMT Working Party. Congress, I move.
Thank you, colleague. Seconder, formally. Motion 25, the mover, please. That's 25. Thank you. Can I have composite one then? Wales and South West to move.
Charlene Sibley, Wales and South West, moving composite 1. Congress will agree, I'm sure, that the GMB's benefits and service package ranks among the best. We're all aware our contribution structure is based on the number of hours worked, with certain concessionary rates applying for students, apprentices, those off sick, unemployed or retired. There's also a promotional rate that can be applied with regional discretion in terms of application once agreed by Congress or CEC. Many unions have salary-based rates. The less you earn, the less you pay. For example, in Unison, if you earn between 2,000 and 5,000, you pay $350 a month. But if you earn less than 2,000, it falls to $130. We become relatively more competitive once someone earns over 20,000, but the problem can be quite acute in those areas of industry where hours of work are sparse and pay rates low. Using the unison structure again as a comparator, our grade 2 rate only becomes competitive when someone earns more than 11,000. From the 1st of April this year, the minimum hourly wage became $7.78. Someone working 20 hours a week at that rate would earn $8,091 per annum and pay a monthly subscription of $6.60 to Unison in contrast to our $7.59. At 21 hours, the Unison rate stays the same, but ours jumps to $13 a month. This is a real problem when trying to recruit in the cleaning and catering groups within schools and other establishments. School staff rarely get paid outside of the academic year, and the former retainer payment system was removed at the time of implementation of single status. So here we are, trying to recruit amongst a national target such as schools, but coming up against a problem where, beyond the 20 hours a week point, members are required to pay almost double that charge by our fiercest competitor union. The NUT and ATL are to merge to form the National Education Union, presenting us with another threat to our ability to recruit and organise in schools and academies. Despite our stance on ensuring support staff remain outside of their scope, it is likely that this new union will try to infiltrate our spheres of influence in schools particularly. ATL offers support staff 50% off the cost of membership in the first year. Their rates, even when doubled after that year, will make them the more affordable option. And the hard fact is this: many people who consider joining a trade union are heavily influenced by the cost. It's recognised protecting the union's income is important and that any reduction in rates might have an adverse effect unless offset by a significant increase in members recruited. However, my region believes we can't simply ignore the concerns of long-standing and committed activists regarding how our rates are acting as a deterrent to recruitment. There is no easy win-win, but the case for review and possible overhaul of our structure is unarguable. Let's commission an internal analysis and bring a report back to Congress 2018 for consideration and decision. I move.
Thank you, Shelley. North Western Ireland to second. Formally, thank you. Conference are now going to take the next two items together, item 12 and 13. 12 is the annual accounts and audits report, and 13 is the CEC financial proposals with rule amendments. I'll call on Tim Roach, the General Secretary and Treasurer, to answer any written questions on the accounts, move the annual accounts and auditors report, move the CEC report on financial proposals report, and give the CEC response on any rule amendments and motions on finance and contributions. Tim?
I wish it was a woman General Secretary, she could multitask. Thank you very much, Malcolm. Good afternoon again, everybody. First of all, we haven't had any written questions on the financial accounts. So what I'll deal with first is the various motions that have just been moved and seconded. And on behalf of the CEC, therefore, we'll be replying to motions 26, 28, 23, 25, Composite A, and Rule Amendments 398 and 399. Colleagues, motion 28 asks us to register with the HMRC so that our members can get tax relief on all or part of their GMB contributions. If it was as simple as that, conference, we would have done it already. The rules are very restrictive and are biased in favour of professional bodies and against ordinary workers. GMB's policy is that all union contributions should be tax deductible, but I've set up a project group to see how we can argue that GMB members or groups of members can comply with the criteria and get tax deductions. With that qualification, I'm asking you to support the motion. And by the way, just as an aside and for factual accuracy, Unison subs in these comparative grades are higher than ours, even after their tax deduction. Motion 26 argues for an increase in the mileage rate paid to members on union business and says this should be 45p rather than 35p because that is the recommended rate by HMRC. Well, strictly speaking, it isn't. Only for a certain amount of miles do the HMRC recommend 45p, and then after that it goes down to 25p. So you always need to be careful about comparing apples with apples. But I don't want to split hairs. It's been 6 years since we increased the allowance, and the CEC is asking for the opportunity to consider this and assess the cost in the context of our overall expenses system. So please refer motion 26. Rule Amendments 398 and 399 both seek to increase the amount mentioned in the rule for strike pay. Colleagues will be aware that this union always uses its discretion in deciding the amount of strike pay, and we would never allow any employer to starve our members back to work simply because they didn't have the financial support. So the amount in this rule is very much a flaw, and it's very rarely, if ever, used. But it's fair to say that £10 a day or £50 a week is far too low and frankly embarrassing, and the CEC therefore supports the proposed rule amendments. Motion 23 asks that any changes to the union's internal financial structures are only made with full consultation and involvement, including Congress. Colleagues, let me take this opportunity to say as clearly as I am able, there is no threat to regional autonomy and regional financing of our union, and as long as I have a breath in my body and am your General Secretary, there never will be. What is right, however, is that we look and we investigate and we examine whether our national finance structure is fit for a 21st century union, is transparent, is understandable, and that everyone knows how our finances work around our great union. So I'm grateful to London Region for agreeing to refer this motion to the CEC, whilst a subcommittee of our senior management team continue to look at and explore options on what we currently have as our financial structure and what we may want to do going forward. But again, please rest assured we will make no decisions that anyone is bounced into, and everyone will go into with their eyes open and their hands up in favour. Motion 25 seeks to increase the allocation of political fund monies to regions. And again, that's difficult. It's difficult because the direction of travel in our national political fund is going to go the opposite way. It will be reducing rather than increasing, and I'll deal with that when I move the financial report in more detail in a moment. So again, I'm very grateful to London Region for agreeing to refer this to the CEC, for again, the SMT looking at the whole finance structure to consider this as part of it. Composite 1 argues that the GMB contribution structure is a barrier to recruitment, especially of lower paid workers. Well, there's clearly lots to be said on either side of this argument, but as the composite asks for a review, the CEC is happy to ask for reference so we can report back to you next year. So Congress, please support motion 28 with my qualification, refer motion 26, please accept rule amendments 398 and 399, which are effectively identical, and finally, please agree to refer motions 23, 25 and composite 1.
Thank you, Tim. Can I have that formally seconded, please? The report. Thank you.
Do you want me to move the finance report now, Matt?
Yes, please.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Me again. General Secretary and Treasurer moving the annual accounts and the CEC finance report. Congress, I'm very pleased to present the accounts for GMB for the last 12 months. Another good set of figures which shows the union continuing to go from strength to strength. Costs were strictly controlled across the whole union as we kept to our very simple but absolutely vital policy of living within our means, never spending more money than we get in from our members' contributions in the year. Membership was slightly down over the year. Some of that was caused by the change in legislation of the Trade Union Act, which meant, in trying to outlaw check-off in the public services, we had all officers and activists concentrating on conversion from check-off to direct debit, and that took our eye rightly off the ball on recruitment. However, we're back on the straight and narrow now, and the other reason for the big reduction last year was the removal of 17,500 ASDA names that hadn't paid a penny piece to this union for 10 years or more. So that didn't affect our money income. What I am pleased to report is that since the third quarter of last year, we are now back to seeing a steady growth in union membership. There are some other factors improving the accounts this year. Investments performed very well. There's been a big improvement in the union's pensions liability. I think, colleagues, we really are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel in respect of our own GMB pension deficit. And I'd like to thank the pension trustees and particularly the work of Paul Maloney and before him Andy Worth for your work as Chair of Trustees. Thank you both very much. So our union's assets are now up to 94 million. Such a change from the dark days of only 10 years ago. But Congress, we need to remain vigilant. We need to remain frugal. These figures are a tribute to the hard work of everyone connected with our union. But our task isn't going to get any easier. By the end of this week, we will see what kind of government GMB will be dealing with in the coming years. Many of you have been working tirelessly to help get Labour right back in contention. But if the Tories do hang on, we can expect no favours, no support for our hard-pressed members in public and private sectors. This is not a government for workers, and it never will be. Whatever the result on Thursday, the impact of Brexit is still hugely uncertain for our members' job prospects. And to cope with economic upheaval, GMB needs to be financially robust and stronger than ever. We need to adapt to new media. We need to talk to our members in places that they go and talk to each other. We need the systems and resources to take advantage of developments in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and all other media networks. And we need to grow our army of workplace activists and reps who are the bedrock of our union. We also have to be able to fund large-scale legal cases to support our members and protect workers' rights in this hostile environment. After our success in blacklisting and the continuing fight with employers like Uber to stop them avoiding their employment obligations, we're now working to enforce equal pay in Asda. None of this is cheap, conference. So to keep the union finances on a steady road, we need to look at contributions. We're very likely to see inflation continue to increase, mainly because of Brexit and the Tories' poor handling of the economy. And Congress policy in the past has always been to keep contributions going up in line with inflation. But we know that many members' wages have been stagnant or gone down, and we wanted to propose, therefore, the lowest increase we could possibly afford while still breaking even. So we're recommending an increase of 1.8%, the CPI figure of January 2017. That figure is now at 2.6%, so we're way below what the current day says. This equates to a weekly increase of 5 pence a week on grade 1 and 3 pence a week on grade 2. All other rates will stay the same. Colleagues, GMB is the best union in the country. We need the tools to keep it that way, and I hope you'll give me support in agreeing these contribution rates. Finally, I need to explain the political fund rules which I mentioned just earlier on. In the 2016 Trade Union Act, the Tories included a measure aimed squarely at damaging the finances of the Labour Party. They did this before, back in the 1930s, so we know the effect of having to ask new members who join us whether they want to opt into a political fund or not. If we do nothing, we know the answer is that our members will not opt in. They simply don't. And if we therefore do nothing, the GMB will lose £500,000 in income per year. So the proposed rule change means that new members' contributions won't go into the political fund, but they won't be lost to the GMB. They will go into our central fund, our general fund. That is crucial. Our political fund will reduce, and with it our ability to support the Labour Party. That's inevitable. But the only way to change and reverse that is the election of a Labour government. The change of rule the CEC proposes is all about protecting your union, the GMB and our finances. So Congress, I commend the annual accounts to you, and I ask for your strong support of the CEC Finance Report. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tim. I will now invite regions who wish to speak on the accounts or the report of the financial proposals. Southern? Northern? Sorry? Northern? Northwestern Irish? London?
Steve Garlick, London Region, speaking on behalf of the region. Whilst the region commends the report, I do wish to bring up some points based on my interpretation of the document. In view of the contributions being made to European trade unions, I would request an analysis of what value our future membership will receive from these organisations will be following Brexit. Unless we have a clear assurance that there is value in these connections, for our membership, we must reconsider where we stand. I do have concerns in relation to the investments that the union is undertaking. Looking at a selection of investments, I recognise, however, several names in the list of shares purchased or held which are of concern. John Lang, named in the blacklisting trial, is one which causes enough concern to me. Pets at Home, who do not seem to have a union recognition agreement and have, from my brief overview of staff reviews, serious concerns about staff treatment and bullying. Signet Jewellers have a sexual harassment claim ongoing of 10 staff members. These are just 3 companies I've chosen. Unless we are careful to check the ethics of such investments, we are leaving ourselves open to question. I recognise there will be occasions where the union will take a stake in a company so we can represent our members at shareholders' meetings. However, we must think first and foremost about the efficacy of our investments. Please can CEC look at these issues as soon as is practical. Thank you.
Thank you. Wales and South West.
Lorraine de Lazarete, Wales and South West Region, responding to the financial proposals document. Chair, Congress. Congress applauds the achievement of the Union in recording another year of financial growth. The financial strength of the GMB is fundamental to our ability to provide the levels of service and protection that our members desperately need in times of uncertainty. Our progress is testimony to the discipline shown in managing our own internal affairs and the willingness to make tough decisions when we're required to do so. That stand has to be taken again this year. Asking members to pay more is always tricky, recognising that many of them work in low-wage, precarious sectors of the economy where trade union recognition is unlikely to be achieved. However, the proposal to increase Grade 1 and Grade 2 contribution rates by 5p and 3p a week, respectively, in accordance with a lower than usual inflation indexation, strikes a fair and reasonable balance between the need and the ability to fully fund our package of benefits and services and the earnings position of our members. It also addresses the competitive challenges faced by activists in trying to recruit new members and retain existing ones. We should never have to return to a situation where a freeze in contributions in any one year then leads to even more proportionate increases in future years. With regard to the political fund levy, we would all like to wake up on the 9th of June and discover a Labour Party majority in the House of Commons. The possibility of another Tory term in government and a fresh onslaught into the trade union movement
Finish now, Lorraine.
is abhorrent to us all.
Lorraine, just finish.
Yeah, I'm finishing.
Okay.
Let's make sure Wales and South West Region commends this report to Congress.
Thank you. Scotland, Yorkshire, Birmingham, Middle and East Coast. No, I would now like to give GMB the right to reply on motion 28. Would you like that right to reply? Come on then.
The CEC's response was that it's not as easy as that. Now, I joined GMB because it was a union that did things and wasn't put off by it's not as easy as that. The fact of the matter is, Unison has got this for its members. We have members in these sectors, and for me, GMB should be fighting for those members to get that tax back. It's the equivalent of 50% off their subscriptions. So to me, the statement that it's not as simple as that, no one's saying it's as simple as that, but GMB is not a union that doesn't do things because it's not as simple as that. It's for our members. We should fight that cause.
Can I now call on Tim Roach to respond to the finance debate, and then we'll move to the vote.
Thank you very much. Deal with motion 28 first. With the greatest respect, I said if it was as simple as that, we would have already done it. And I then went on to say that we've set up a project group to look at it to see how we can best effectively achieve what you're seeking out to achieve. There is no way that the GMB hasn't taken on every single battle on behalf of our members, whether that be on your contribution rates or rights and decency at work. So please rest assured we are and will be working on it. I think the other misleading fact, though, is that it isn't 50% of your overall contribution or anything remotely like it. In terms of London region, Steve, I take your points entirely. First of all, our contributions to European bodies and value for money, we always look at every contribution through our Finance and General Purposes Committee about whether it's value for money. And Brexit may question in some people's minds, well, what's our relevance to European trade union bodies then? But there's still the solidarity issues, of course, as we affiliate to solidarity in Nicaragua and Palestine and Israel. So we will always make sure that we maintain the value for money argument. In terms of your question on investments, if you'd have put them in writing to me beforehand, I could have answered all of them, and I would have happily. Have a word with Alan afterwards or write to me, mate, and I'll give you an assurance. We do not want, and we had a meeting with Schroders, our investment managers, only a couple of weeks ago when Alan and I, me particularly, stressed that I do not want to be involved with unethical investing on behalf of the GMB and our members' monies and our members' contributions in any way. So if there are examples where it's unethical, we'll raise it and we'll be out of their toot suite, and that's a promise I give you all. Thank you, Wales South West, for your fair and reasonable balance. I think that's very, very helpful. I hope I've answered all the questions, and I hope you will support the finance report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. We'll now call a vote, and I'll take them all separately. First of all those in favour of accepting the annual accounts and the annual and the auditor's report, please show. Any against? They've carried. All those who accept the CE's financial proposals contained in CEC RA 5, 6 and 7, all those in favour, please show. Any against? They've carried. Does London accept reference on 23, 25 and 26? Thank you. Does Congress accept reference? Thank you. Does the Southern region wish... Oh, sorry, they've withdrawn that. Thank you for that. Does Midland accept the qualification on motion 28? All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. And do Wales and South West and North Western Irish region accept reference on Composite 1? Yes? Does Conference accept it? Thank you very much indeed. We'll now move on to the political in general, and can I ask motion 222 and 223 to come down to the rostrum, please, and 221 to the rostrum. They're both Birmingham. Okay, Jackie.
Jackie Ingley, Birmingham and West Midlands region, moving motion 222. Vice President Congress. More than half of women MPs have had a physical threat from a member of the public, a new survey reveals. 9 out of the 10 have been abused online and 80% have been verbally abused. Of the 73 MPs who replied to the survey, 2/3 said they felt less safe after the murder of Joe Cox. 1/3 of women MPs who responded to the Radio 5 live polls said that they had considered giving up their jobs because of the abuse. One said the level of violence and abuse had increased, at times being very frightened. Another said the response by parliaments or authorities, and sadly the police, remained cavalier in the face of threats of death and violence. Congress, we need to change this and protect our women MPs. Please support, I move.
Thank you, Jackie. Move of 223.
Yeah, Arnold England, Birmingham and West Midlands region. I'll keep this short. Congress, Vice President, At all levels of government, our elected representatives are or should be obliged to declare any personal or family interests in contracts to be awarded. To have cabinet ministers who have links to healthcare determining who contracts are awarded to should be a sackable offence. That is not to condone, of course, privatisation of health services. We need to strengthen the rules around declaring such pecuniary interests and use our influence in Parliament to that end. I move. Thank you.
Colleagues, 222 and 223 are both being supported by the CEC. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Anybody against? They've carried. Move on now. Can I have the movers of 226 Midland, 229 Southern, 230 Southern, Composite 19 to be moved by London and seconded by Southern to the front, please, and the mover of 226 to the rostrum.
Vice President, comrades, Tony Davison from Midlands and East Coast region, first time delegate, first time speaker. I'm moving the motion 226 without the support of the region. That is a brave one. The Tories, having lost the vote to remain in the EU, Cameron forced to resign, the Tories in complete disarray, you would think what a golden opportunity to mount a mass campaign involving and mobilising the entire trade, labour and trade union movement, including national health workers, teachers, community support groups, all breaking under the strain of austerity. And what do we get? The lunatics take over the asylum. I refer to the Blairites. They orchestrate an all-out witch hunt to undermine the democratically elected leader, Jeremy Corbyn, whose anti-austerity position has inspired hundreds and thousands of mainly young people to join the Labour Party. Not only are the Parliamentary Labour Party opposed to Corbyn, but also the constituency Labour parties who are attacking our members every day, attacking the jobs, the terms, the conditions, and withdrawing union facilities. So our reps are incapable and difficulty in representing our members. It's not so much the dislike Corbyn, but his anti-austerity position, for which they have no alternative. They fully support the Tories and their austerity mention. We didn't crash and wreck the economy, but as always, it's the working class that's made to pay for it. A victory for Corbyn is a return to the socialist principles, the very bedrock, the very foundation of which our movement was built upon. If our movement isn't a socialist movement, then it's nothing. It has no body, it has no soul, and it's got to represent the interests of the capitalist class. It's got to be based on socialism. If we're to reclaim our party and demand those elected to represent our interests, that they live their ordinary lifestyle.
Just move the motion, Tony, please.
I'm ready, comrade.
No, move it now, please. We're running. No, Tony.
I urge Congress to support this motion, and I move.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thatcher replied, New Labour. I don't have to say anymore.
Is that formally seconded? Oh, right.
Vice President Congress, Pritpal Singh, first time delegate, second time speaking from Midland and East Coast region. I support this motion without the support from the region. I'll put this the right way around. I support this motion because we all place our trust in individuals with the hope and trust that those that we elect will best represent us and the Labour values we stand for. Politicians shouldn't be allowed to build an empire and feel they no longer need to engage with those that place them in the position. Labour values means a lot to us all today, which is why we're here, and we should be in a position where we can hold them to account when the elected fail us. It's not about any single individual, but about accountability in success and failure. I second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mover of 229.
Vice President, Congress, motion 229, reinforcing equalities in the Labour Party. Okay, so on the December 1st, 2016, Caroline Flint, MP, made inflammatory comments about the transgender community at an equality conference. The comments that she made were identical to those expressed by the Trump administration. Yeah, a Labour MP mimicking comments made by Trump, okay? Caroline Flint expressed that gender-neutral toilets were a danger to women. There's no evidence at all of the transgender community acting violently to women in toilets. In fact, the opposite is true. Transgender people do face violence in gender-specific toilets. Gender-neutral toilets are not a new invention. They exist on trains, aeroplanes, and throughout countries in Europe, and they're in our homes. Congress, we ask that the Labour Party follows the approach used with the previous anti-Semitism inquiry to investigate all equality issues in the party. Congress, we ask you that an investigation takes place against any members of the Labour Party that are found to hold discriminatory attitudes towards any group protected by the Equality Act. We've got to make a move on this. We are a union of equality, and therefore we need to protect people, and we need to hold the Labour Party to account. Congress, I move.
Seconder.
Karen Turner, Southern Region, first time delegate, first time speaker. Seconding motion 229, reinforcing equalities in the Labour Party. Vice President, Congress. I call upon Congress to back this motion in requesting that a full investigation takes place and action is taken against all members of the party found to have discriminatory attitudes towards any group protected by the Equality Act 2010. I second.
Thank you. Mover of 230.
Vice President, Congress, motion 230. The motion's actually written very well and quite self-explanatory, but I would just like to add that the role of a trade union liaison within the Labour Party is crucial. It allows us, as GMB activists, to promote and push forward issues and policies on behalf of our membership through grassroots constituencies for Labour parties. All the way to the National Executive Committee if need be. It may also be that we can promote more local issues by shaping motions to local councils through Labour councillors, or indeed in my case, you become a Labour councillor and cut out the middleman. We as GMB activists bring a unique and far-reaching perspective to the public and private sector to the table. And this intelligence collated in workplaces or via branch meetings. Being involved with your local constituency Labour Party allows you to break out of the echo chamber and give voice to ideas and work issues and hopefully solutions. And as a trade union liaison officer in the constituency Labour Party, you get to meet other trade union liaison officers in your region to further promote an agenda on behalf of the members. I ask you that you support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mover of Composite 19, London.
Dan McCurry, London region. The Chapter Party report was written after a big business in the Labour Party last year when literally hundreds of members were disciplined, many of them expelled from the Labour Party, and many of them felt really badly treated. We have to remember that the Labour Party created laws that said that when an employee is disciplined or dismissed, they must be treated fairly, and that's all in the statutes now. So you would expect that the Labour Party would behave with the same standard that they would lay down in law for companies. They didn't really, and the Chapter Party report exposed that and basically made some recommendations of how to make the procedures better. So for a very simple example is if someone is expelled from the Labour Party, they should at least have a right of appeal. I mean, come on. It's just very basic, simple, natural justice. And that's really kind of, if you look at the motion, there's lots of other examples in there as well, but I think that's a very simple and easy one to get people to understand what the motion's about, and we'd appreciate if you back the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder.
Hello. Vice President, Congress, Manetta Rodriguez, Southern Region. This motion would like the Labour Party to adopt the recommendations made in the Chakrabarti report to be implemented to avoid opaqueness. As trade unionists, we work tirelessly to preserve and promote the rights of individuals that may be going through a disciplinary process, and our expectations, of course, as trade unionists is to be supplied with clear policies and procedures involving the disciplinary process of the organisation involved in the initiation of this. Likewise, we would like the Labour Party to have clear disciplinary party procedures to avoid occurrences that happened last year, where a large number of Labour Party members were either suspended or expelled and then later reinstated. I second this motion. Please support. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call on Lisa Johnson to speak on behalf of the CEC. Lisa.
Vice President Congress, Lisa Johnson, Director of External Relations and Training, speaking on behalf of CEC on motions 226, 229 and Composite 19, taking them in turn. Congress, there's much to agree with our delegate's passionate speech from Midland and East Coast region around socialism and his deft critique of the New Labour years. There is much to agree with, and I'm sure the CEC would do so. However, what we are talking about in terms of the motion in front of us is not about any Labour Party leader, whether it be Tony Blair or Jeremy Corbyn. We're talking about the process by which we reselect our members of Parliament. The CEC are seeking withdrawal on this motion because, as it currently stands, there is a process in place to reselect our members of Parliament, and it is called the trigger ballot process. Within that process, trade union branches have got a collective voice. We have quite a lot of influence on the process, and we would not seek to dilute the collective voice of our affiliated branches in that process. Affiliated branches can actually say, we're not happy with our Member of Parliament, we want a selection process. We can do that, we have the power to do that, so if we want to have a reselection process, we can. But we do believe that the best way to take on the Tories and to get a Labour government in place is to ensure that we're fighting the Tories, not each other, continually on a year-round basis. And on that motion, that is why we're seeking withdrawal. Motion 229, just a small clarification on the motion to ensure that actually we are calling on the Labour Party to run an investigation rather than GMB. And obviously we continue and we will raise any issues around discrimination and equality with the Labour Party on an ongoing basis outside of this Congress. Composite 19, CEC supports this composite with qualification. We support all of the principles outlined, but just to point out that there are some of the events have somewhat overtaken the motion in that some of these things have been already addressed. So there is a broader range of disciplinary sanctions have been adopted. There's already access to legal advice from the two firms of solicitors retained by the Labour Party. The appeals are made and are heard by members of the NEC, on which GMB sits, and sometimes jointly with the regional board in the region. So we support with qualification, the qualification being that we would not support external bodies being brought into the disciplinary process of the Labour Party. So Congress, therefore, we're asking for motion 226 to be withdrawn, and we support motions 229 and composite 19 with the qualifications I've outlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Does the mover of 226, Midland, wish to right of reply? Come on then.
The comrade, what's your position? Lisa, Comrade Lisa says we support a united Labour movement. Labour isn't united. It's a party of two parties, of the Blairites and the Corbynites. And win or lose Corbyn on Thursday, they ain't finished with going for him. They will continue the witch hunt against Corbyn until they get rid of him. And if you want a united Labour based around a socialist policy, kick out the Blairites and get rid of them and get in the party where you belong.
Thank you, colleague. I think I know the answer to this question, but I've got to ask it. Do you wish to withdraw motion 226? Do you wish to withdraw the motion? No. Right, thank you. In that case, the CEC are asking you to oppose. All those in favour, please show. All those against? That's fell. I'll now move on then. And does Southern accept the qualification on motion 229? Does London and Southern accept the qualification on composite 19? Right. 229, 230 and composite 19, all those are being supported by the CEC. All those in favour, please show. Any against? They've won. Move on now. Can I have the mover of 240, please, down to the front? And it's London region.
Tony Chollerton, London region, moving motion 240, the Civil Honours System. President Congress. This Congress believes that the civil awards system is outdated, unfair, and needs to be changed. At present, if a person is currently offered a civil award, they either have to accept it and go through a civil awards ceremony or decline it and receive no award. Congress believes that if a person has merited the offering of an award, that they should not be penalised for not wanting to go through this ceremony. Some people feel that the notion of empire medals is outdated and needs to be changed, and others do not believe we should have a monarch. The current system is very complicated and there are lots of awards. To change the entire system in one go would be incredibly difficult and could therefore fail. This motion aims to change the awards that our members are most likely to be offered and proposes the option of equivalent People's Awards to OBE, MBE and CBE. Creating these People Awards would then, over time, allow us to analyse the numbers of people opting for these awards so that we can, if necessary, propose further changes. Many of our members do incredible work, worthy of honour without prejudice. Past motions have called for the abolition of all the awards, but they have failed. This motion offers a credible alternative. It offers a fair system where those that want a People's Award and those that want a civil ceremony can choose without fear of losing out or compromising their beliefs. Congress, please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, colleague. Conference, the CEC are supporting the motion. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. Can I ask for motion 236 and 237, both in Scotland, to come to the front, please, and 236 to the rostrum.
Vice President, Congress, Tom Kirkpollock, GMB Scotland, where apparently our money or our Scottish notes are not acceptable in Witherspoons. Moving motion 236, Scotland's constitutional future and full devolution of labour rights and workplace protections. Congress, the general election in Scotland has been as much about attitudes to Scottish independence as it has been about Brexit. In the European referendum last year, Scotland voted to remain, while most of the rest of the UK voted to leave. The truth is that in Scotland, the Brexit referendum has simply reopened an independence debate which was not resolved in 2014. Scotland is divided between those who continue to support independence, some of whom are keen on another referendum as soon as possible, and those who want to see the 2014 referendum result stand. The role of GMB Scotland is to stand up for our members regardless of their constitutional views. Union members need to have confidence in the information that we provide, and our role is to help bring people together rather than divide them. Significant change is already on the way, with further devolution of power to the Scottish Parliament and the transfer of powers from Brussels as a result of Brexit. GMB Scotland believes that these issues require a UK constitutional convention which engages people not just in Scotland but across the UK. This motion calls for our union to engage in the convention and support every effort to bring people together. Congress, the motion also recognises that there are some powers that trade unionists in Scotland need to be arguing for. We are not dewy-eyed in the progressive politics of the Scottish Parliament. You will have heard the long list of complaints we have against the Scottish Government and our other motions this week. However, there is a consensus that the Scottish Parliament must be empowered to protect Scotland from the worst excesses of the Tories on trade unions and workers' rights. At present, the Scottish Government can get away with saying the right things on workplace protections, but with too many excuses as why they can't deliver it. Devolution of labour law will mean that Scottish politics will have to listen to trade unions rather than simply expect us to fund their campaigns. We could make a difference and deliver change in Scotland, but we also want to ensure that other parts of the UK can see that the Tory way on employment rights is not the only way. Safeguarding and enhancing labour rights wherever we can will demonstrate that deregulation and exploitation is not the only response to the challenges of Brexit and austerity. Brothers and sisters, please support GMB Scotland. I support this motion. I move.
Thank you. Mover of 237. Mover of 237, Scotland. Forbley, thank you. I now call upon Kevin Buchanan to give the response of the CEC. Kevin.
Vice President, Congress, Kevin Buchanan speaking on behalf of the CEC, asking Congress to refer motion 237. Congress, GMB Scotland was a very active participant in the last Scottish referendum. In that debate, we ensured that the voice of our members in key industries like defence, shipbuilding and energy was heard and engaged by with both sides of the constitutional argument. Nearly 3 years on, the truth is that Scotland's constitutional debate has not been resolved. The result of the referendum on the UK's membership of the EU revealed that a divided UK, with Scotland voting strongly for Remain, while most of the rest of Britain opted to leave. That division has not proven as fertile ground as the Scottish Government may have hoped for holding another Scottish independence referendum just yet. With continuing council and public service cuts, failing educational attainment and a creaking NHS, many people in Scotland are rightly telling the Scottish Government to get back to the day job. but it is increasingly more likely that another Scottish independence referendum will take place at some point. The UK government is failing working people in every part of Britain, and it shouldn't be surprising that many people in Scotland believe there must be an alternative. Whenever a vote comes, in the role of the GMB in Scotland will be to ask difficult questions of both sides of the argument. For the Scottish nationalists, that means answers will be required on currency, on economy, on pensions and in jobs. For those who argue that Scotland's future relies on a continuing partnership in the UK, they will need to demonstrate how the UK will be reformed and how real positive change will be delivered for our members. But be in no doubt, Congress, no trade union, no political party for that matter, can simply tell our members how to vote in any referendum. The constitutional question in Scotland divides families, it divides workplaces, but our members don't all think the same way on the issue. Honest and sincerely held views exist on both sides of the debate. Our union cannot be a place only for those on one side of the argument. We must listen to each other, respect each other's opinions, and stay united on our mission for a fairer world of work. That's why the CEC believes that our approach to this issue must be debated and led in Scotland by GMB Scotland. It is for that reason that we are asking you to accept that this motion be referred to GMB Scotland rather than decided upon by this Congress today. The union that should be our first priority is our union, the GMB. We share a common purpose and a determination to make change, but we cannot make decisions here in Plymouth for our Scottish members before they have an opportunity to have their say and to guide their union through further constitutional debate. Please support reference back and make sure that GMB Scotland is the place where this debate takes place, that we work together to make our union a trusted source of information on this issue and a place where all our members in Scotland feel welcome and included in our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. GMB Scotland accept reference back? Thank you. The conference accept reference back? Thank you. 236 is being supported by the CEC. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Colleagues, you've been that good today. We've finished the programme. But with your permission, I would just like to take some off tomorrow morning, which will make us run over by about 20 minutes. Is that okay? Thank you. Tough. Can I now call on Bill Maddock, CEC, Southern Region, to move the CEC Charter on housing, please.
President, Congress. Bill Modlock speaking on behalf of the CEC, moving the CEC Charter on housing. Congress, GMB has a long and proud track record for campaigning for more affordable housing, for decent housing and for council-owned housing. A safe and decent roof over your head should be a right. It's not a privilege based on what you have in your bank account. A secure home will impact on children at school, whether you can hold down a job, and it will affect your health, both mentally and physically. Put simply, it's a vital and crucial part of each and every one of our lives. That's why this government's failure to build more houses is not just a scandal, it's a derogation of duty. CEC is recommending this housing charter, which underlines GMB commitment to good housing, while recognising the difference between Westminster and devolved powers. We call for more housing under local authority control, more houses to buy and rent, and for more action to be taken on rogue landlords and those who buy properties as an investment portfolio. and leave them empty while working people struggle. Right to buy cannot be allowed to continue while houses are not being built. Each and every right to buy property that is purchased must have a like-for-like property built. Too many people and families today are still feeling the impact of Tory policies of yesteryear. And if Tories win this election, those who bought under the right to buy decades ago could be faced with paying for their social care with their property. You couldn't make it up. The same people who squealed when Labour proposed a small increase in inheritance tax to fund public services are now bringing us a dementia tax that will penalise the poorest. We must hold to account all administrations, all governments who give priority to investors and the wealthy above communities, working people and the most vulnerable in our societies. That extends to local government. We cannot allow councils to bulldoze entire estates, to uproot entire communities, and to build luxury flats no average worker can afford. There has to be a commitment to social houses in developments, and dodgy developers who are just in it for a quick buck should be taken to task and regulated. Congress, a housing policy based in common sense and our members' real lives is not just good for those who need a roof over their heads, it's a vital part of industrial strategy and economic growth. House building must go hand in hand with the development of skills and jobs, paid at the rate for the job and not by agency workers hired by umbrella companies to undercut hard-won paid terms and conditions. Let me finish by putting a human face on housing. In Manchester, a couple of weeks ago, we suffered a devastating attack. An attack that rocked the city, rocked the region, and rocked our nation. In the midst of that attack, a young man ran towards danger to help. He helped a little girl who had been hit by shrapnel, and he helped a woman at risk of bleeding to death. And in doing so, he said, they needed the help. I'd like to think someone would come to help me if I needed help. That young man was called John, and he was homeless. He also said, just because I'm homeless, it doesn't mean I haven't got a heart. Too often, the debate about housing is about bricks and mortar. We know at GMB it's about real life and real people. Housing policy goes to the heart of equality, fairness and social justice. The CEC recommends the GMB Charter for Housing.
Thank you, Bill. Can I have that formally seconded, please? Thank you. I'll now call speakers from each region who wish to put a speaker up. Birmingham, London,
Will Conway, London Region, supporting the CEC Charter for Housing. Vice President, Congress. While welcoming the report, it does leave room for improvement and for abuse by the less moral of our authorities. It is proper that local authorities should manage properties and keep rental revenue, but legislation is needed to set minimum standards and quantities of available housing stock available at social rents. Councils must not be allowed to shirk their responsibilities. Theresa May has pledged a constant supply of new homes for social rent, but Housing Minister Gavin Barwell, or spelt it wrong, described the new stock as what you'd call affordable in housing terminology, but they are housing, social housing. Affordable is defined at 80% of local rents, whereas socially rented housing is defined by the national rent regime and is typically around 40%. They're clearly not the same thing. This difference effectively puts councils into competition with private landlords and can only be inflationary and self-defeating. The statement rightly deplores the loss of housing stock due to right to buy, but another aspect of that policy is the degradation of some of those properties because the buyers could not afford to maintain them. These and other dilapidated properties need concerted action to make sure that nobody is living standards below a reasonable level, or at worst, threatening their health. This raises the option of compulsory purchase for uninhabited or dilapidated properties. Government policy needs devising to ensure that unscrupulous landowners are not leaving houses unoccupied purely to profit unfairly, and those left with uninhabitable homes are properly rehoused. We should not support the sale of any council housing or property except where it can be shown to be either uneconomic or excess to need and sold at a fair market price. Where it's not surplus to need, it should be replaced at least on a one-to-one basis. Congress, I support the motion.
Thank you. Midland.
Grace Charles, Midlands and East Coast. Vice President Congress. Midlands and East Coast support the Charter, but feel that there is room for improvement. Like my colleague earlier, there are areas that we think needs looking at. For example, I don't think the report takes into account things like accommodation with support, so people with health needs or care needs, so accommodation that would be booked for those sorts of individuals needs to be taken into account. And the Welfare Reform Act, in terms of the cap that it's putting on those, will impact on that particular sector. So I think that just needs looking at in adding to the report. Thank you.
Northern. Northwest. Scotland. Southern. Southwest. And Yorkshire.
Afternoon, Congress, Vice President, General Secretary, everybody else. First time speaker, second time delegate. They got me this time, I've had to come up. I'd just like to say to Congress, oh, Yorkshire and North East Derbyshire. I'd like to say to Congress about landlords. Not all landlords are bad, you know. I'm a landlord. Oh, no, it's not like that. It's not, no, I'd like to say, when I was a young lad, my mum, we grew up in a council house, and she'd never buy it. I always wondered why, but she had her principles. And I know the reason why, because if she bought it, nobody would be able to have it when she died. And she did die, and the family went in with 3 kids, so good on her, you know, good on her. Somebody got that house. Walking down, yeah, thanks. Walking down to Congress, first day, saw 2 homeless people in little shop fronts. And this is the problem, they ain't the houses for these people. They're not all just laying around trying to get scrounge money off you when you walk past. They are proper homeless and there's nowhere for them to stay. So I do think we need some houses. Where I live, on the edge of Sheffield, there's a load of land what an housing company's bought. They've had it for 3 years and they still haven't built on it. And they're doing it for a reason. And we all know they wait until the prices go up and then they'll build the houses and make more money. I'm nearly there. I think that's it. We just need more houses and that's it. So thank you.
Okay, now call on motions 336, Wales and South West, 337, Birmingham, 339, Birmingham, Composite 25, Southern to move London to second, 342, London, 344, Midland, and 345, Midland. Come to the front, please, and the mover 336 to the rostrum.
Charlene Sibley, Wales and South West, moving motion 336. President, Congress, we have a housing crisis, and this crisis isn't just about the houses, but people too. The lack of affordable homes affects families across the country as home ownership becomes less likely while renting from private landlord increases. Many families struggle to repay mortgages or live in unsecure accommodation rented out by unscrupulous landlords with extortionate rents and often for poor conditions. Levels of homelessness are rising to almost 50,000 a year, with up to 2,000 living completely rough. Things have to change. It is beyond hope that this government has a commitment to solve the housing crisis. Their faith in the power of the markets to remedy every economic or social ill ensures that a major increase in social housing will never happen whilst they are in office. A government with any sense of social responsibility would recognise that council housing was both an asset and an investment, and loan money to housing associates to get them building again, allow local authorities to borrow money and build homes in their constituencies. Congress, the housing challenges facing this country requires innovative and far-reaching solutions. One possibility is to use the pension funds to invest in affordable social housing. Local government pension funds, when pooled, run into billions in the form of investments that ensure they can meet pension payment liabilities when these fall due. Investment in housing using these funds can provide the homes people desperately need and enable good long-term return for scheme members. It can help build more houses and stronger communities. The initiative requires commitment but offers stable investment returns which then benefits our members when they come to draw their pensions. At a time when public finances are severely restricted, we must consider new ways of funding affordable housing. Councils have to find investments that offer better returns without the volatility of other methods. As both council pension funds and social landlords operate on a not-for-profit basis, they fit well together. Good retirement incomes and affordable homes are also social goals that match easily, and both sectors work on a long-term basis. There are some drawbacks, of course, but in reality, there is a huge untapped pool of capital here for long-term investors. The need to maximise returns for scheme members is fully understood, and investment must serve that purpose and not just act as a cash cow for local projects. However, achieving good returns can involve diversifying the asset portfolios. Investing in social housing building can be part of the strategy. The government needs to relax its investment rules to allow LGP's funds to invest up to 30% of their assets into limited liability partnerships, which are the vehicles typically used to invest in housing and infrastructure by pension schemes. A growing population and the building of fewer homes have seen prices spike to unaffordable levels. Future generations are being denied a foot on that all-important housing ladder. It's time for Theresa May to deliver on her pledge to build more homes and reduce inequality. I move.
Thank you, Charlene. Mover 337, Birmingham. Thank you. Mover 339, Birmingham. Mover of Composite 25, Southern.
President, my name is Yvonne Rose from Southern Region. I'm a first-time delegate and a first-time speaker. All right. Composite 25. Families and single people continue to struggle with the huge housing crisis in London. I'm here today to ask Congress for your support to oppose local authorities' demolition of council estates in London and the South East. London councils are demolishing large areas of council and social housing in the face of huge opposition from local residents. Whilst we accept that London is in need of high-quality housing, many of these developments have done little to help social housing provision or included limited or no genuinely affordable housing. Many poor, disabled, and black and minority ethnic families have been moved out of the homes they love and forced to relocate in areas where they have no family, friends, or support. As a result, people become more vulnerable and isolated with no guarantee of returning to their communities. Council consultations have left tenants confused and unsure about what is going on and the outcome that will affect their lives. When Labour built council homes for ordinary working people, it was for life. Now it seems to be a crime to be a social housing tenant. People are subject to a form of eviction and scattered around the country. In my opinion, it is the opposite of a Robin Hood policy, robbing the homes of the poor to give to the rich. Much of the private housing on these developments are left empty after purchase or rented out at market rates. These reinforces the existing problems in the housing market. This motion calls for the GMB to put pressure on London's Mayor Sadiq Khan to ensure he fulfills his manifesto commitment to ensure each tenant has a vote in a ballot before homes are sold under their feet. The motion calls for social housing to be genuinely affordable. Rents that are 80% of market or shared ownership are still out of the reach for most working class people in London. I move.
Yvonne. London to second.
Godwin Acacia, London Region. First time delegate, third time speaking. President, Congress, this motion is on estate demolitions and redevelopment, which is carried out in the country without the due consent and control of the residents, and even when the estates have no structural defects or requirement for refurbishment. Such estate demolition and redevelopment generally means rendering the current residents homeless. It leads to forceful loss of homes and, in some cases, damage to trade and commerce. Setting up social housing in estates and homes being demolished for redevelopment means, in real terms, expensive private homes, which are beyond the affordable reach of the ordinary local residents and our members. An instance is the current issue of the air court that is even bedeviling us now. And records have shown that even the exhibition center of e-court presently contributes over £1 billion to London economy. It's attracting even $500 million people. And when this is demolished, all this will be lost. Congress, we should rather be supporting and protecting council homes. We should be supportive of construction of social housing and that are affordable and within the reach of members and ordinary citizens. We should also be able to say no to the demolition of homes and give support to communities' control of their estates. Congress, I therefore support this motion.
Thank you, Godwin. Mover of 342, London. Mover 342, London.
Vice President, Congress, Gary Harris, London Region, moving motion 342 on alternative relief on inner city housing. Congress, since the Thatcher government of the 1980s, we have seen a decimation of too many working class communities right across this country. From Scotland to Cornwall, from the Humber to South Wales, industrial wastelands have been created where communities have been left to die by successive governments. Policies have been pursued that have resulted in a decline or closure of traditional industries such as manufacturing, steel and mining. The effects of families have been devastating, condemning generations in some areas and towns, and particularly their young people, to a life of benefits and poorly paid jobs and no career prospects. The effects of local business has been equally devastating. When local communities have no money to spend, then small local businesses follow big companies and contracts or close, resulting in a cycle of more job losses and more deprivation. But there can be another way. Government can take the proactive approach of investing in the local communities, encouraging others to do the same. Government can relocate public sector organisations, such as government departments, institutions of further and higher education, to move away from the South East and other more prosperous parts of the country, or to expand their operations into areas of deprivation. This in turn would encourage local businesses to invest and reopen or expand the service. A growing community. Equally, housing stock that is currently vacant can be brought back into social housing to house and expand towns, cities and other areas. Congress, too long have we lived in an economic policy that has destroyed our traditional industries, that has failed to invest in to replace them, and as a result has destroyed communities. But there can be another way. Government can invest in communities, provide education and training for these populations, and diversify away from economic policy that centres on the service sector and the South East only. On June the 8th, you have a choice. More of the same, more deprivation, more broken communities, or you can vote for a government that will invest in its citizens and the whole country for your future and your children's future, and you know your only choice is to vote Labour. I move.
Mover 344, Midland.
I come every year with a different ailment. People think I'm just sympathy hunting now. Right. Carol Clarkson, Middle and East Coast Region, Deputy President, Congress. Rest in peace, social housing. Yes, this government have capped the benefit for rent. They are only allowing the maximum of £50 per week for a couple with 3 children. This leaves a shortfall of approximately £50. Where are these people going to get this £50? The thing is, the benefit's supposed to be to find the kind of money. No, I can't read this, don't you? Never mind. Kind of money when the Conservatives have already slashed the other benefits they were entitled to. What will be the outcome? Eviction. Yes, eviction. For families and single people. Families will be breaking up and children going into care, which will cost more. More young people living on our streets. Disgusting. This is 2017, and we live in one of the richest countries in the world. The Tories want to take us back to the 18th century, where we have to live in multi-occupied homes because we can't afford to live in a family unit. Please, Congress, these people are low paid. 0-hour contract. Workers, well, as people who can't find jobs, they're still workers. They're not working at the minute because they haven't got any jobs to get. Congress, fight the Tory cap on rent. Keep a roof over their heads. I move.
Thank you, Carol. Mover 345.
Tony Elm, Midlands and East Coast Region, second-time delegate, first-time speaker. Moving motion 345, support the homeless people. Vice President, Congress. It is reported that since 2010, homelessness has doubled, but it's difficult to get accurate figures because people move about and can be hidden away. Approximately 62% of single homeless people may not actually show up in official figures. The main cause of homelessness is relationship breakdown, but there are wider factors which make people much more vulnerable, such as mental health or substance misuse issues. Accessing the help they need is very difficult, and we have already heard at Congress that due to service and funding cuts, this is going to make things worse, and the Tory have put a stigma on homelessness. There is currently a massive reliance on charities and the goodwill and fundraising of people to support their local community. to support local homeless community because services and appropriate accommodation are not funded sufficiently, and this needs to change. The Homelessness Reduction Bill was passed in April, and whilst this is a positive step, it is not enough. And those classed as in priority need, such as parents, those fleeing domestic abuse or care leavers, are at risk of falling through the gaps. There are more than 150,000 young, vulnerable people asking for help, and they will not meet the government's criteria for emergency housing. This leaves them facing a terrible choice between being on the streets or resorting to desperate measures like staying with strangers. Not having a home can make it harder for people to find a job, to stay healthy and maintain relationships. They suffer feelings of isolation and increase the potential of mental health problems. In 2016, 73% of accommodation projects have had to turn people away because their needs were too high. The Tory government's benefit cap has actually supported the increase of homelessness and pushed more people into severe hardship. Everyone should have safe, secure and affordable housing. I call upon Congress and the GMB to lobby and support their Labour Party in the manifesto plan to end rough sleeping by investing in additional homes reserved for people who are rough sleeping and safeguarding homeless hostels. Congress, please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, Tony. Colleagues, the CEC are supporting all these motions. I'll put them to the thing. Now put motions 336, 337, 339, Composite 25, and motions 342, 344 and 345 to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? They've carried. Congress. This year's Congress local gift of £2,000 has been chosen by Northern Region and will be donated to the People's Kitchen in Newcastle, which offers food, friendship and support to the homeless. You'll find details on a flyer in your Congress bags, and the National Office and regions will send their contributions to Northern Region for a presentation to be made in the region. Colleagues, that concludes the business for today. I've just a couple of quick announcements. The first one is, as reported by the SOC, there will be a bucket collection as you leave the hall in aid of Guide Dogs for the Blind, organised by GMB Scotland. Please give generously, as you always do. And could the regional organisers please inform the SOC of the total amount raised so this can be reported to Congress. Also, delegates, tomorrow morning, the Anthony Room, which is opposite the GMB info desk, will be available for delegates and visitors to store their luggage. And also, another pair of spectacles has been left. If anybody owns them, this is where they are. Thank you for your cooperation and hope you all have a good night. That's got rid of that.